Gentlemen, please settle down. Donnie. Thank you, everybody. We are beginning the program right now. May I request all the dignitaries to please take your seats on the dais, please. Group Captain Vijay Kumar, Mr. Gautam Lakhamraju, Mr. C.K. Ranganathan, Mr. Surya Prakash, and Professor Raj Krishnan Shankar. Thank you. A very good morning, ladies and gentlemen, to all of you. A warm welcome to the Family Business Conclave 2025, jointly hosted by Great Lakes Institute of Management and Madras Management Association. Today's sessions will explore how family offices and family businesses can work together to build entrepreneurial legacies. To formally inaugurate today's conclave, we shall begin with the traditional lighting of the lamp. I invite our dignitaries on the stage for the ceremony. Professor Raj, our chief guest, Mr. C.K. Ranganathan, Mr. Surya Prakash, Group Captain Vijay Kumar, and Gautam Lakhamraju may please do the honors. As the saying goes, well begun is half done. May I request Mr. Gautam Lakam Raju and Professor Raj Krishnan Shankar to honor our chief guest, Dr. C.K. Ranganathan, by presenting the traditional Ponnadai. I also call upon Group Captain Vijay Kumar and Mr. Surya Prakash to extend a warm welcome to our chief guest. One more. To open today's conclave, may I invite Mr. M P Surya Prakas, Honorable Treasurer of the MMA and Executive Director, Pon Pure Chemicals India Private Limited, to deliver the welcome address, please.
Mr. M P Surya Prakas, Honorary Treasurer of MMA and Executive Director of Pon Pure Chemicals India Private Limited, is a second-generation entrepreneur and BITS Pilani alumnus who has transformed Pon Pure into a global leader in specialty chemicals through innovation and R&D. Under Mr. Surya Prakas' leadership, the group has expanded into successful ventures like Buki, a fast-growing eco-friendly home hygiene brand, while being consistently recognized among India's great places to work.
Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure as the Honorary Treasurer to warmly welcome all you for this aspiring conclave, Creating Entrepreneurial Families, organized by MMA in association with Great Lakes of Institute of Management and KAS. I warmly welcome our distinguished chief guest, Mr. C.K. Ranganathan, Chairman, Managing Director, CavinKare Private Limited, who has revolutionized the packaging industry and transformed his humble beginning into a multi-core company, challenging the multinational giants in the personal care and empowering rural Indian consumers. I also extend my warm welcome to other dignitaries sharing the stage during this conclave. I take this opportunity to welcome all the invitees of MMA and GLIM and other partner organizations who have joined us in person and also in online through various MMA social media portals. For the benefit of the guests and invitees from various organizations, it gives me immense pleasure to give you a brief about MMA, which was established in 1956 and has evolved today as the largest management association in the country with over 9,000 plus members, spread across 12 chapters in Tamil Nadu and Pondicherry. MMA has been awarded the Best Management Association in the country for 15 times in a row, including 2024-25. Family business in India are distinguished by strong influence of family values, mutual trust, and long-term vision that guides the business decisions. They play a pivotal role in our economy by generating employment, preserving traditions, and fostering resilience and adaptability. Their ability to balance continuity with change also ensures effective succession planning. In essence, family business is shaped by shared ambitions and commitment in building a lasting legacy. In this context today, Conclave will serve as an important platform to provide clarity, insights, and perspectives on success, planning, and efficient management of family enterprises. Madras Management Association and Great Lakes of Institute of Management are delighted to present an engaging conclave on entrepreneurial insight and help shape the future. I also wish to place on record our appreciation for the distinguished speakers and the panelists who have so generously agreed to share their time and expertise with us. I once again extend a warm welcome to all of you, my colleagues from Management Committee and members of MMA, distinguished invitees of MMA and GLIM, and partner organization who joined us today, and viewers of all over the globe watching this conclave. Wishing you all a truly and insightful conclave. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Surya Prakash, for that warm welcome and for setting the tone so nicely. We now proceed to the segment on the opening remarks. May I request the video for Mr. Gautam Lakam Raju, please?
Mr. Gautam Lakmaraju is the Chief Operating Officer at Great Lakes Institute of Management and a co-founder of its Gurgaon campus. With over a decade of leadership experience, he has been instrumental in shaping the institute's strategic growth, overseeing academics, admissions, and institutional development. A former management consultant specializing in the energy sector, he brings a unique blend of corporate and academic expertise to his role.
Mr. Gautam Lakam Raju, we invite you to deliver the opening remarks and set the tone of the conclave.
Good morning, everyone. A very warm welcome to all of you for joining us today for this our inaugural session on family businesses. Right, and before I go further, let me thank my fellow panelists and especially our chief guest, Mr. C.K. Ranganathan, as well as my colleague, Professor Raj Shankar, Group Captain Vijay Kumar, and Mr. Surya Prakash, as well as other participants in today's panel discussions, as well as the fireside chat, our close friend, Mr. Samir Mehta, Professor T.T. Srinath, again, who's a strong backbone at Great Lakes and has been a leadership coach as well. So when we thought about this conclave, I think there were a few reasons for us to take this up. And more than the conclave, I think Great Lakes is now invested in helping support the family business ecosystem. We are 20 years now. We celebrated our 20th anniversary last year. And in the first 20 years, our focus was on catering to what most business schools do, which is help transform students, create talent for the industry. And now those guys are doing well. We are now one of the largest business schools in the country. When Dr. Balachandran, our founder, set up a business school in Chennai, it was because he went around and set up other business schools in the country. He helped build MDI Gurgaon. I'm a graduate of that. He had set up ISB in Hyderabad, and Chennai really didn't have a top-tier institution, and that was his goal, to help create a top-tier institution, management institution in Chennai. And so the 20 years has been a great, incredible journey with, so many graduates coming out of Great Lakes, now many of them in their 40s, our alumni, they are already in senior management positions. So we could have impact that way. But I think as a business school, we wanted to be connected with the larger ecosystem of the society and industry, right? And if you look at India, it's a country of family businesses. The Indian economy is dominated by family businesses. And while family and small businesses may be a large chunk of most global economies, I think in India it's unique that from the smallest of businesses to the largest of businesses still today, most of them are, run by families. So it's incredibly important that we can cater to this ecosystem, we leverage this ecosystem and help nurture the next generation of leaders. So last year this academic year, and we started, planning this program last year, we started the family business program at Great Lakes, which is a 1-year full-time program for young family business successors, right? And this is unique in its sense that, in a sense that most of the other family business programs are where, students come once in maybe a quarter, right? There's some level of engagement, but the unique thing about our family business program is that it's a 1-year intensive program, exactly same as our flagship 1-year MBA program, right? In fact, the students share, the courses with our flagship students. So it is intensive. Unlike most family business programs, which are more part-time and seen as like, helping students who to slightly improve their understanding. This is a very intensive and transformational program, right? So that's the first thing we did. And second, we thought we can engage with the community and have this kind of platform where we can talk about issues that concern family businesses. And third, we have focus on research. In fact, my colleague, Professor Raj Shankar, he is among the highest rated researchers in entrepreneurship and strategy globally. Right, I think he had 4 Fortune Financial Times 50 publications. That's the top 50 management journals in the world. He had 4 publications in them in the last 3 years. Right, so we have a very competent thought leader within Great Lakes leading this area. Right, so our involvement is multidimensional, and we plan to have more initiatives. We are planning a forum where people from family businesses can exchange thoughts, can consult each other, can of course reach out to our faculty members, take their help. So today's event is perhaps a kickstart to those larger initiatives as well. And at Great Lakes, we are always willing to engage with you. So if you have any thoughts on how either we can benefit you or you can support us in our endeavors, you're more than welcome to reach out to us. I can think of a few ways in which you can do that. One is, help us in our research, because a lot of it has to be based on what is happening in the real world in your organizations. It can be through support of our research by, having chair professorships or supporting our Center of Excellence. Right, so I welcome you all to engage with us. And again, let me thank Madras Management Association for hosting this. We have partnered even earlier this year in January for the first Dr. Balavi Balachandran Memorial Lecture, where we had Professor Partha Mohanram from University of Toronto. And we look forward to having more such initiatives jointly. It's a great body. I think now almost 70 years old. Great Lakes is 20 years, so we have a lot to gain from the association. So look forward to that, and I definitely look forward to hearing Mr. C.K. Ranganathan. I had the privilege, as I said, of hosting him for our convocation 4 years back in 2021. That was online. So now I have the privilege of hearing you in person. So look forward to that. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Gautam. Those were very thoughtful words, and it, I think, highlighted the importance and the value of today's theme of the conference. We now move on to the next segment of the event, which is the launch of the Insight Dossier and the introduction and overview of the conclave. It is my distinct pleasure to call upon Dr. Raj Krishnan Shankar. He is Professor of Strategy and Entrepreneurship and Family Business Management, along with being the Program Director of our PGPM program. Would you please cue the AV?
Dr. Raj Krishnan Shankar, Professor of Strategy and Entrepreneurship and Program Director, PGPM, at Great Lakes Institute of Management, Chennai, is a globally recognized scholar and award-winning educator with expertise in corporate entrepreneurship, sustainability, and organizational learning. With prior academic experience at Nord University, Norway, and over a decade in consulting and entrepreneurship, Dr. Raj Krishnan brings a rich blend of research, practice, and leadership to management education worldwide.
Professor Raj will now introduce and present the concept behind the Insight dossier, understanding how India's family businesses are shaping intergenerational wealth management approaches, a deep exploration into how legacy-driven enterprises are reimagining continuity, governance, and next-generation leadership.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here with us. It's an absolute honor to have Mr. C.K. Ranganathan with us today. Thank you so much for coming. I don't want to say any more thanks to Group Captain because that's the only thing I keep doing every time I pick the phone because he keeps doing so much for us. Thank you so much, and MMA. Thank you, Mr. Surya Prakash, for setting the tone, and thanks, Gautam, for kicking this off. Before I get into what actually the dossier contains, I just want to give you a little background. Family businesses are the backbone of this country. I don't think I need to reiterate that anymore. But I think what is missing is much of this knowledge that we create is still kind of coming from the West in terms of abstraction and theory building and things like that. So I think it's time that with so many businesses around, I think it's time we start building knowledge out of the splendid examples we have, so many of them sitting on the stage and off the stage. So I think we're missing a lot of knowledge. It's just becoming only stories. And so this initiative is to really kickstart this thought process. So we want to build thought leadership from Chennai, from here, and Great Lakes would like to play a part in this journey. As part of this, we wanted to not give answers but ask a lot of questions, and therefore we wanted to start with this Insights dossier which we are trying to launch today. It compiles a lot of information about the importance of family business and family offices in particular, which are a growing phenomenon over the last 10 years. And so as a first, before I get into details of what we have in that dossier, which is in your kits, I'd love to have our guests actually launch it for us formally. So I kindly request you to launch it. Thank you, sirs, for that honor. So with this, we hope that we have kick-started this whole process of knowledge generation, which should multiply and grow over the next few years. And hopefully we present to you more and more of the findings that we actually get from the local market. Just to give you a sense of what's in the dossier and what we want to do over the next few years, let me just quickly run you through this. So I don't want to tell you, if you look at these names, I don't know what occurs to you. Any quick thoughts? Most of these are large businesses in India. Most of them are family-backed, family-owned businesses. I purposely didn't put all the names of people you're going to meet today because you're getting them live, so you don't need pictures. So you're missing all the people who are sitting here in the audience today. But what I wanted to also say is this is not just from one part of India, it's just spread out. So you have companies from the east, you have from the west, you have from the north, you have from south. So wherever you go in India, you're bound to see family businesses. And such a ubiquitous phenomenon remaining understudied seems like a strange thing. Yeah. We also did a quick check on the, just take the top 3 indices. I took the BSE and the 200 and the 2000 up to the 2000, and then you realize that the ownership is quite large. So which means largely India, even the largest companies, the listed companies, many of them are actually family managed, family controlled, and therefore and as the number of companies increases, the percentage is just so large. So I wouldn't even mind saying that when it comes to all the businesses in India, probably it's close to 80-90% of India's businesses are all actually family managed or family controlled in a way. Therefore, this is an important phenomenon to look at. But what are these businesses? And I'm a professor, so I hope I'll give you something to take away beyond anecdotes. So I went back and looked at this, 25-year-old paper, which actually set this business off in entrepreneurship theory and practice. And they said there has to be a governance component, there has to be control component, and there has to be a family interest. And there is interest to think long term, because there's this whole thing of transferring all of this over generations. So if all of these are elements, therefore you will see that most of the family business literature revolves around this very, very popular 3-circle Venn diagram model. So to kind of manage this, because they thought that family business are difficult to manage because there's a family, there's ownership, there's the business, and so there's a lot of overlap. So this is not surprising, because this model is kind of beaten. It's been around as old as me, actually, when I looked up at the paper. I don't want to tell you my age, you can look it up, but it's that old. So I realized that we haven't done anything beyond that in almost half a century. And so with this old model and the growing complexity of businesses, in a recent reconceptualization by professors in Europe, they actually said, family business is not just business. It's actually a bunch of so many things. So you'll see families today have philanthropic efforts, they have museums, they have family offices, they have a lot of non-economic assets. So a huge set of a plethora of things that they're trying to manage. And at the nucleus of all this is the family, still trying to do all of this. And there are families now in Europe, some of the families which have like 500 people working in the family. So how do you manage something like this has become extremely critical. And therefore, a reconceptualization and this whole expansion is, I think, imminent. So one of the ways in which this is being managed is by creation of these family offices, where senior family members kind of orchestrate a lot of things, like create constitutions, manage wealth transfer, integration of next generation, maybe even leadership development and things like this. So what is going on is family office tends to give a structure to this whole thing. And then we looked at, okay, is this just a global phenomenon, or is it happening in India? It's interesting. In India, we already have more than 300 family offices. And the rate at which this is growing, it looks like it will reach like about 1,000 offices in the next 10 years is what people are estimating. So this is, again, something that is new. It's emerging. And so it's something that we need to think about. So I went back again, as what all professors do, go back to the literature, search for, hey, has somebody actually studied this? So again, you see that this is not a new thing. It's been in spurts on and off. And so there's some structure, some broad definition available, but it's just a starting point. So one is there has to be structure. That's number one. Second, there is this intention to kind of deploy, grow, use, manage, etc., both economic and non-economic assets in the family. And the third is to see how you can transfer this off. So this, a bit more, I think the details are all in the handbook that we have shared with you. But we can look at these as, broad range of forms in which these are done. So literature says there are at least 5 ways in which you can structure family offices. So one is just the business itself managing its wealth. So that's where the family office is inside the business, just managing wealth and then looking at next gen. And then slowly it moves into embedded, where you have actually a separate unit doing that, but it's still within the business. But as you go further, you see that there are now third-party organizations running virtual family offices. So if you don't want to start one, you can actually sign up into one. Then, of course, if you're large enough and you have a large wealth and a large set of successors and so on, then I think a single family office, we have examples, again, like the Berman Holdings and so on, which have been running for long. The Putney's office has been running now for more than 20 years. So these are people who consciously created legal entity and then trying to run it. Of course, I'll be talking to Mr. Samir Mehta later this morning, and you will hear more thoughts about that. He's, of course, running one himself. And then the other is the multi-family office, where a group of families come together and manage this whole wealth management setup. So where the costs are reduced, at the same time, there's common interest. So there are many, it's again, what I'm trying to highlight to you is this is not a simple phenomenon of just creating a structure and then managing wealth. I think it's a lot more complicated than that, and therefore it requires thought. So this expanding thing is also, the complexity is also driven by the market. So for example, today you hear about alternate investments. You have so many forms of investments possible. Like we were just talking that there are startups. You have a lot of families now actually engaging with startups to do the experimentation. You don't have to run it internally. So you can actually take equity investments, early stage, explore whether it works and so on. So a lot of new forms in which this is happening. a lot of different ways also. For example, impact funds and so on. So there's just a lot of things going on. But is this really sizable, or is it just a small one family, a few families? I think India, at least the Indian businesses, are set to control more than $1 trillion of wealth. So which means you are people who are actually trying to manage significant amount of money. It's not small amounts of money we're talking about here. Though it is fragmented in many sorts, you have all sizes of firms, but then the quantum of money that's being handled is very large. So that's number one. Just the top 300 families alone actually manage about $1 trillion of wealth. And they employ a lot of people. So it's also about creating jobs. So these family businesses ought to be entrepreneurial, ought to sustain the entrepreneurialness, which means they have to transfer this to the next generation as well. And and many of these people may not be interested in taking over your business. And then how do you kind of, use that as a strength to diversify, maybe go to the peripheries of your existing business and so on. So, and the government is also interested in this, or should be interested a lot more in this, because they also contribute a lot in terms of taxes, which is what helps public development. So I think in all forms, this is important. And another interesting statistic is also that a lot of families which started the businesses in the 80s, 90s are reaching the stage of transition. So which means they're now trying to induct the next generation, trying to develop leaders. And therefore, it's a time where they probably need to think of using tools like family offices. So what are we here today to deliberate on? I know for today, most of you here are in some way connected to family businesses or part of family businesses or interested in some way. Second, you're clearly seeing, because India is growing, everybody's doing well, and therefore you're seeing increase in family wealth. So you need to learn how to manage it. That's the second thing. Second, you're looking at how can you do this transfer. If you're, a senior member of the family, you're looking at how to engage the next gen to actually get in, transfer, and educate or inspire them to join. And maybe you're already thinking about using family offices as a model, or you're just thinking, is it really for me? Should I be setting it up? These are questions that you may have. And hopefully today we will hear we're going to have a keynote which will explain to us a lot more his thoughts, Mr. C.K. Ranganathan. And then we have a fireside chat. We'll go deeper into family offices with Samir Mehta. And then we have a panel discussion where Professor T.T. Srinath will lead us on intergeneration. So we hope to cover several aspects of this. And as I started off by saying, today's intention is to kickstart a discussion, a dialogue with a lot of people. And therefore, we hope that you'll all join us in this dialogue. And through this, over the next few years, we will be able to put Chennai and Great Lakes and all of us Indian family businesses on the map even better. Yeah. So with that, I will stop. A lot of details are in the dossier which is in your bags. I hope you'll take a look at it. And if you're interested in knowing more, doing more, please do reach out to us. The contacts are in the dossier. But with that, I once again thank every one of you for being here with us this morning for the very first family business conclave that we're trying to do. And thanks once again to Mr. C.K. Ranganathan for helping us kickstart this. It means a lot to us. And thanks MMA and Group Captain Vijay Kumar. As I said, I can't stop saying thanks to him. Yeah, thanks a ton.
I'd like to add that the Insights dossier that has just been released is a part of the kit that was given to you when you all have registered. The kit also contains a QR code which can be shared with people which allows people to access this report online as well. Okay. So thank you, Raj. That was indeed a staggering wealth of information about the staggering extent of wealth and value creation possibilities from the domain of family business. This morning promises to be a very highly engaging and insightful series of sessions. We look forward. We progress now to the inaugural session. This will be the inaugural address on the topic of the role of family offices in managing the long-term leadership of family businesses. Inducting and orienting the next generation into the family business is a Herculean task. Arguably, there is a huge difference in the psyche, attitude, capabilities, and outlook of each generation, even within one family. And to explore how both the current and future generations adapt to these differences without compromising business priorities is the need of the hour. To shed light on this unique aspect in a family business, we invite Mr. C.K. Ranganathan, Chairman and Managing Director, CavinKare, to deliver the inaugural address. Would you please cue the AV for Mr. C.K. Ranganathan?
Mr. C. K. Ranganathan, Chairman and Managing Director of CavinKare Private Limited, is a visionary entrepreneur and pioneering innovator. A former chairman of CII, Southern Region, and past president of MMA, IMA, and TAI Chennai, Mr. CKR is also a founding member of the Ability Foundation and the driving force behind the CavinKare Ability Awards and Chennai Krishnan Innovation Awards, which celebrate human spirit, inclusivity, and entrepreneurship.
Over to you, Mr. Ranganathan.
Mr. Gautam, Professor Raj Shankar, Mr. Surya Prakas, Group Captain Vijay Kumar, my friends on the audience, ladies and gentlemen, it's indeed a great pleasure to be with you all and share some of my experiences. I think this is a great initiative by Great Lakes, and I'm quite happy to see that Chennai definitely requires this kind of mentoring and hand-holding family businesses for transition. So congratulations. So when I think of family office, I would say that you all know that Professor Raj Shankar has given you an overview of that. I would simplify in such a way that in a layman's language, you can understand a family office is a lawyer, very eminent lawyer, eminent CFO, and a grandpa, and finally, also a concierge, efficient concierge. All put together is what a family office sum up in terms of output you can expect. So, the wisdom from the grandpa, these are all very important things. I think finally the family office, if you look at, there are two kinds of businesses, business family and family businesses. While family businesses focus majority in building the businesses, and mostly the money is still in the working capital and building the business, there is no surplus available. When you have surplus, that's when the family office kicks in. When you don't have surplus, you don't require a family office. Typically, it's well within the business. So typically, I would say the size of 50 crore surplus and you start making money and you want to create wealth, because one is making the business work. Another one is multiplying the wealth created by the business. And that's very important. Succession planning, transitioning, sorting out family feuds, multiple generations, how you handle and carry on is a very important ask. From that angle, family office plays a very, very early role. I salute the organizers, because this is what Stephen Covey says in his 7 Habits of Highly Effective People: begin with the end in mind. Any business, I may be today 5 crore, 10 crore turnover, but someday everybody wishes I'll make it big. And that's quite logical. And the end game is, if you are to look at that, it has to last beyond generations. And that's very important. Not only that, it has to be passed on in a very efficient manner. So from that angle, the wealth has to be multiplied. Succession planning has to be handled very well. All these things are possible only when you have a family business office. And that way, you may be small today, but your end journey, if you are to look at that, I will create a legacy. I'll create a family business office. And that's what I would leave it with you all. There are already some people who have already created family offices. I think that would be very nice. Generations of business. and they're already creating wealth and keep investing and multiplying the wealth separately. They have real estates, multiple things. So, in terms of CFO role, you know that where efficiently money could be deployed and legal frameworks of what the lawyer does. The concierge will organize travels, personal work, even a party to be organized, all kind of things the family office handles, all the family members. And that's the role. Let's understand. It's not just only financial advice and still you will look for somebody else to do that. Family office is supposed to manage all the personal needs of the family members, including I want the best of doctor for some medical emergencies or admission in best of college or schools, where to go. All these things the family office is expected to do the homework and advise the owners. So I'm going to talk more about grooming the next gen, more on that journey. I think that would be succession planning. All those things would be an important topic. So generally in the succession planning, I think normally in the Hindu hierarchical thing, the eldermost will get the benefit of leading. But that's changing nowadays. Meritocracy. And that's very, very important. Only when you have a very eminent person, whoever, it doesn't matter, it's not the eldest to lead the business, but the youngest may also lead. But the kind of mental framework that is to be acceptability of a junior leading the show is very, very important. It is a capability that prevails because business interest to be protected. It has to, and the business is very healthy. It can take care of the family. So therefore, the business should be in the hands of a very eminent person within the family. So I would say that the meritocracy is a very important ask and not the hierarchy. So the role of the founders or the architects or the second gen, third gen, whichever generation, the seniors have a role to play to stating that it is a meritocracy, constantly reminding the younger generation that the meritocracy will prevail. And I told my son and daughters, it is not the hierarchies, because I suffered as an individual in my own family. So it's not the kind of this thing. When it comes to meritocracy kind of this thing, then leadership would have changed. I think that is a very important thing. I don't want my children to go through the same thing. I have been telling every 2 or 3 years, I'll keep reminding. So please be ready in a frame of mind to accept who is the best amongst you, who has the capability. So that way they have grown well and they have understood. I think I'm happy to see that transition happening. And that way it's a good thing. That I think is one of the important thing I would like to say. So the other one I would say that is also, we need to teach them the value of money. If they don't know the value, because it's generation handling the next, this thing is, normally if you know that the third generation destroys the wealth. Majority of the business across the world. Because when first generation works hard and creates some money, second generation having closely seen that some more responsibility, but third generation is pampered more and more. And what happens is, as a result of that, they grow without learning the value of money, how the decisions are made, all these things. It's more, everything comes at their kind of this thing, to their table, whatever they want, they're available. They don't understand the money value. Not only that, they also don't have hunger to grow. Everything is there. Why would I work? I will relax, I will enjoy. Money is a responsibility. Money is not just a kind of wealth that you can enjoy kind of thing. If you want to come to family business or business family, please come with the responsibility to multiply wealth, multiply employment. There is so much more social work can be done. Money in the hands of good people is far more valuable. And that has to be used judiciously. That's what I would say that in terms of Teaching them the value of money is very important. If every generation handholds that very clearly, not spoiling the kids with money, understand them the hard way, make them to understand, that would go a long way, is my viewpoint. And I am very clear, I have been telling my children that money value is one, the business acumen is also a very important thing. Common sense, EQ, business acumen, if I am to call it, is a domain knowledge of business. I think common sense, all combined, if you look at, but plus mathematical knowledge. You need to know in a fingertip this works or not. If you are every time you rely on a calculator, you don't even know whether the calculator tells the right number outcome, then I think you will do a lot of mistakes. So that I think a fingertip one need to know that mental mathematics is very critical if you want to be a kind of this thing. So in a family business or any business, if you look at a lot of numbers will be thrown on the shelf, you can see the balance sheet or anywhere the numbers will be there. If you are not able to mentally able to calculate and say the numbers doesn't tally, something is wrong, then I think if you don't have that acumen, you will not be able to take the right calls. Another very important thing is, I would say, the next generation, when it is handheld, fathers or mothers, whoever are at the helm of the current generation, they are handing over. They are in anxiety to make their wards to succeed. I want them to be successful. I want to demonstrate to the world, go and jump, this person is doing very well, my son or my daughter is doing very well. And that's a hurry. Therefore, the urge is not making them learn, but making them to display that they are successful. That I think one need to let go. And I think our full endeavor must be to make them very clearly successful is very important. At the same time, the learnings are far more important. What I did, I was very clear when I started the kind of learning journey for my children. I have 2 daughters and 1 son. I told them, nobody will be coming into the business. They have to start something on their own. Small, I may not give capital more than 10 lakhs. And they do well, I will keep funding more. So whenever they started business, my first word is this, very good, appreciate this. You start something on your own, you have made up your mind. I help them also debate, discuss, finally the call is theirs. And one of the important thing is that when you tell them that is a 10 lakhs is a maximum money, I told every of my children is, I wish you fail. I don't want you to succeed in the first go. So because very important that they remember very clearly. And I also told them, don't worry about failure. Failure is not fatal. And that's where you will get to learn quite a lot of things. So I would also urge that start making that learning, because at the end of the day, the money I invested in my kids is a very important thing for their learning. It's not to succeed, because when they are left with higher amount of wealth to manage in future, if they don't understand the value of learning, knowledge, suddenly first itself success comes, they are bound to make costly mistake later, because the success has to come after doing some failures. That's my strong view. And that would be a very, very strong foundation for one to have. So I would say, my eldest daughter, she failed in the first attempt, continued, pursued, second attempt failed, third attempt successful and started doing very well. My son succeeded very well in the first attempt itself. He said, Dad, I am started making money in the second month itself. I'm happy. So I said, okay, no problem. He started a bakery. I said, I will fund more. No issues. So went on to funding. 1 outlet became 4, 4 became 10. Then after that I said, guy, I am not going to fund you. You take a bank loan. So he took a bank loan, went through his own pain. Because success started coming easy, he made his own mistakes. and he has to work hard to repair it for the next 3 years. So that is how one has to fix him. Now having fixed, he is more confident. And you ask him now, when he started this first year, he was on cloud 9. Okay, I succeeded quite a lot. And after that, making a lot of mistakes and kind of thing, learning out of that. Now he's a much more seasoned youngster. I can now entrust with him more responsibility. And that's very important. Same way, my youngest daughter also started first one, failed, second one failed. Next one, she succeeded very well. No issues. But all I would say that mark down what's your learning. What are the failures? Every failure, every setback is a learning. Just create a journaling habit and start writing it down. Over a period of time, the family, if the parents handhold them, the more the kind of this thing of learning, number of learnings they have, that's aid you to make success and sustained success as you go forward. When you have few learnings, more of successes, I would say that anytime something mishap may happen. When sometime what happens, the family members are not capable of leading, not interested to lead. What happens? Business need to go on. You can't look at that, this generation is off, the next generation may be of interest. So from that angle, I think it's very important. There are two calls. The family business, always they have two kind of calls. One is sell the business. Don't allow the value to get destroyed. Be emotionless. I would very strongly recommend that. Or bring in a professional. Manage it well in such a way that it is managed without any kind of family members, only at the board level, and a lot of independent board members who can come. That's the way quite a lot of public companies and all are managed. I think you can ring fence how the family can continue to run, provided it is in the very able professional hand. I think that needs to be kept in mind. And then sometimes it happens. That is also one more important thing. Another observation I have noticed, businessmen or business families, they send their ward abroad for studying, most probably USA. And they go there, they do some intern and they work. They like the environment, they like the kind of thing. They don't want to come back. A lot of businesses, they say, I'm happy working here. Hey, come on, there's a business waiting here for you. They say, no, I'm happy working. I know a lot of families that way. And I would say that my personal viewpoint is, as parents, we have a lot of responsibility when you are running a business, when there is a family business, to tell them that this is very important. They come back and run this overall, right from childhood. Because a lot of time, if you don't put that in their mind, sometime a teacher or some friend, they'll get fascinated. I would like to be a scientist and so on. Most of the parents, business family, we should not say that it's up to you. Whatever you want to do in your life, you do it. It's easy to say. They are not experienced enough. I think they should not be allowed, somebody should not shape their minds in terms of what to do. I think we have a larger responsibility. We can't force them, but we have to tell the pros and cons right from childhood. I used to, when I drive with my kids, I used to normally engage with that, or during dining, we used to have a discussion. I'll ask, what do you want to do? My younger daughter used to say that, I will start from Gundi City aeroplane. I said, what? You want to do so much? Yes, I will do that. So why do you want to go and work? No. I know business is much better. I can create more employment. I don't want to be an employee. I will create more employment, and that way I add value and service the nation. I think that's a very important thing. You build in that. I want to service the nation. I want to create more employment than just being, maximizing my leadership comes only when I manage more people than self-employed. So I think these are very important things. But if you don't do that, I would call that is abdication of responsibilities as a parent when you are running a business family. If it is not, that's a very different matter. If you are a professional, this thing is a different matter. So another very important thing is, majority of the business when you start, it will be a person-dependent one. Ownership, the proprietor does quite a lot of things. And build around people, trust, all these things. The processes will be not be much. It will be still run on one-man show and so on. But as you grow, when you want to move into a business family, the processes are important. I think that is where the transition happens only when the growth can continuously, sustained growth can start coming in. The process importance than person dependent. Because a lot of businesses are still person dependent, and that's why I have a famous theory, why small business remains small, they don't grow. The more you have a person dependent attitude as the owners, and you rely on only few people, you just blindly believe them, and that you are bound to make mistakes. So very important thing is, when we want to grow, it is a process very important. And then people sit on it and build it to greater levels. So that's a very important thing, person dependency to process dependency. Then the next one, I would say, as the process comes in, evidence-based management. Very evolved, matured businesses move on to evidence-based management. It is not that gut feel management. Gut feel is important, but evidence, what the data says. Data-led decision making is very important. Instead, if you start just simply taking calls, okay, I think this works, I feel like that, I take calls like that. It is okay to work when you are small, but it can't go on and on. You allow everybody, even the professionals, to take gut feel based calls, mistakes bound to happen, and that will be sometimes disaster. So that's very important. A culture of evidence-based management, if it is not practiced, that will lead to disaster. Therefore, the current generation, when you are handing over to the next generation, you have far more higher amount of responsibility in transitioning them to the evidence-based management. And that, I think, is very, very critical. I would also say that in the company, as is not just transitioning the generation alone, building a culture in the company is also very, very important. There are businesses I've seen who encourage, hey, you are committed this number, you have to deliver it. They'll be ripped apart. What will be the attitude of the professionals if you are insisting that you commit a number, you achieve 100%? Vis-a-vis, another thing, are you a bold thinker? Are you thinking big? It's a very important thing. Is your thinking audacious? Do you have big ambitions to go? And that's a very important ask. So instead, what is we trying to say? When I say, every time you say commit a number you achieve is very good, very important. I'm not telling don't achieve that number, but I'll start playing safely. Safety mindset. I will not take a bold and ambitious call. So every time I think if the limit is 100 I can achieve, I will say I will stop at 80. Let's say 80 is what I can do. I will start incrementalism. From here I will give you 10% growth. Whereas the opportunity could be 30-40%. So that, I think, is a very important. That's where one need to draw a call in terms of, as long as I keep one rule in my company, that am I beating the market? Am I beating the benchmark competition in growth rate? Which is very important, non-negotiable. Okay? So then the next one is, having that as a very important thing, I'm beating them on growth rate, and this thing. Even if I fail lesser, if I don't achieve target, I beat the market, I grow my market share, very good, I applaud you, it's fine. I may be erring in telling you or fixing a wrong target also, but the market growth rate is at a particular level. Am I growing, beating the market? Is one simple benchmark if you keep, and what is the margin, what is the profitability? Keep that. And those are very important things that will build an enduring culture and encourage innovation. And because more experimentation is very, very important. One of the things, we have a famous mantra in our company. Okay, fail fast, fail cheap. You don't fail costly. Lot of small experimentations. Do that. It is okay to fail. Nothing wrong in failure. As a rule, we don't punish people who fail. We only punish people who don't even take risk. But we want them to take small risks. We can take very costly risks. It's a pilot. Take a pilot. I have multiple business verticals. Those where there is no experimentation happening, new ideas are being tested at a low cost. I think that business is having less number of ideas, struggling to grow. Where the leader drives in much more higher amount of growth, it drives it crazy. So many ideas are tested. So as a rule this year, if you look at multiple, we are in FMCG, every business division has to experiment at least 12 products, one product a month. We may finally explode only 2 or 3 products on a nationwide or in a statewide completely. But 12 experimentation has to be minimum carried on. So the whole team works around that. And that's important. Because please understand how business works. More experimentation, more low-cost experimentation is very important. This culture helps the family businesses to thrive and grow. These are something I think as owners we have the responsibility to drive and build it on. And also very important, make your children feel comfortable to discuss their problems with you. Dad or mom, I don't get this. I don't know why would not work. I'm not confident this will work. Let them come and comfortably discuss than discussing it with elsewhere, somebody else. And then we fail as a parent if they discuss it with someone else. I think that's the comfort we should give. And we should not breathe down their neck. And that's very important. I told my children, you do whatever you want. You fail, okay? But 2-3 things I'm very particular. Don't default any tax. Don't default any kind of this thing, stakeholder erring on that employee salary or anything, nothing, no negatives on that should come. So these are very basic things. After that, your balance sheet, your struggle, all those things you struggle, you go through that. That's what is very important. So they struggle, they manage. So only thing I told them is, you demonstrate 100 people minimum, managing 100 people, and consistently make profits for 6 months, then I'll give you birth in CavinKare. That's my rule, and it worked for me. And not everybody will have their own rules. But I think one need to set a rule and help them. Initially, for a few times, they wanted to prove me that they are capable. I said, I let it go. But after some time, they said, okay, why can't I go and ask Dad? Without any this thing, I started telling them the kind of this thing, pros and cons, and all of them, it's your call. I don't expect you to follow what I said. And that gave them a lot of comfort. Quite a lot of time, they took the other side of call. They didn't follow me. I have no problem at all. I'm happy that they did. And they did their own mistakes and learned. After that, they started coming. Every day, if you look at, they call me and ask, Dad, what is this? This is what I'm thinking of doing. This is kind of this thing. Anytime they call, I'm available for them. And that's good. I'm happy in that. I only urge that kind of environment creation. Who else could be a better mentor than the dad or mom? I think that's very important. That also one, if you create such kind of environment, that would go a long way is my viewpoint. I'll go on and on. I think time, another 5-10 minutes, I'll finish it off. Okay. So the current challenge the world faces, and family businesses particularly with no exception, is AI. I think the transition has to be led by the current generation as well. So that's very important. We can't say that I am not technology savvy, but you can bring in, you need not have to be technology savvy, but you can still bring in experts to transition. And it can happen under your nose. I think this adaptability to AI environment is one of the biggest hurdle and challenge businesses will go through. You are already seeing or reading in some of the papers, some tech companies, the jobs are getting destroyed. But it's matter of time. Even in brick and mortar companies, the same thing will happen. So the days are not far away. But more new jobs will be created. But I think we have a responsibility of handholding our own employees to transition to that new role, and also ensure that organization is staying competitive in a fiercely competitive world. Because if somebody can do, my competition can do the same job with 10 people, whereas I'm doing with 30, 40 people, I'll be uncompetitive. And that's given. You need to realize that and ensure that the AI transition is one pitfall I would caution the senior generation. So one of the important things is the trust creation. All these things, when business families, if you look at, they create trust. They build a kind of this thing, enduring legacies. I told my son and daughters, you are passengers. So I'm clear about that. They are passengers in the train. And this train will go on and on. So you can't sell and build the kind of this thing unless all the kind of thing coming together. So it's very important. You created the trust and you do your best in terms of creating more employment and ensure the money is responsibly spent for the benefit of the society. So I think that helps. They are very clear. Otherwise they will say how much I will get, what I can do with that, when I can sell this. Business will go for a 6. So that you want to give them money, you give them personal wealth, some money, but allow the business to go on as an enduring legacy is what I would say. So with that, I think we have come to the end of this thing. I would once again congratulate the Great Lake Institutes and MMA for organizing such a wonderful topic and most needed one. I am very sure that there are 10 students who are here from the family business program, and a lot of business houses in Chennai, in Tamil Nadu, in South. Besides, the good mix is all India people are coming and this thing, but our southern parts and Chennai need to make use of Great Lakes much more. Thank you very much for giving me this up.
We now go on to a question and answer session with Mr. Ranganathan.
Legacy can mean...
Shall I read them out one by one? Yes, I shall. Legacy can mean many things: wealth, reputation, or values. What does entrepreneurial legacy mean to you personally?
Values are all basics. If you have lost values, you have lost everything. I would say, what's the point? You can't build anything. So I think values are a very foundation, fundamentals of that. If the business house or the individual loses value, they have lost their face in the society. And nobody will come to your rescue or help. And that cannot be. You can't build anything on that, on the graveyard. So it is losing a value is equal to your going into the graveyard. So is what I would say. So to me, it is building an family business. It is wealth multiplication, multiplying employees, more benefit to the society in and around. I think in whatever ways and means you can do. At the same time, an enduring legacy you create is what I would say.
Excellent.
So the next question is...
do you think the next wave of Indian entrepreneurs will emerge more from family business backgrounds or from independent first-generation founders, and why?
I think later is true. You already see that. It's more from independent first-generation founders is what will happen because they are more hungry, because they have nothing to lose. Whereas family business, you are more risk-averse. You are not playing the game with it. That's why it is more important. That's what I was talking about, the culture, thinking big. If you are in a protection mode, you can't create wealth. Okay, you will only kind of this thing, holding it tight. You need to be playing it in the front foot. I think it's very important. Thinking big, thinking bold is very important. Number of experimentations are very important. If you don't even have idea pipeline, what will you build with?
Mr. CKR, from your perspective, what skills or qualities should young leaders focus on if they want to sustain and scale family business in a rapidly changing market?
I would say that first fundamental requirement is EQ, emotional quotient. If you have good emotional quotient, half the work is done. Just to give you clarity on emotional quotient, managing self and managing others. Managing self has two subsets, self-awareness and self-regulation. If you don't have that self-regulation and self-awareness, that itself is a setback. So is what I would say. So a higher level of self-awareness and self-regulation would lead to a much better way. Then automatically the other one is, how do I manage others? So ability to motivate, empathy, looking from others' perspective, that's also very important. You can't look at from only your perspective. You need to develop that capability to look at empathizing others while you need not agree with them. Then social connectedness, all these things are very important. If that is there, that is what this explains. Even uneducated people, somebody in 5th standard doing exceedingly well in business, they are EQ-wise, they are superb, very, very good. Somebody who Harvard, return and so on, poor EQ, they will destroy wealth, guaranteed. Please understand, at the end of the day, these are basics. So I would say that this one and fire in the belly. That's very important. Hunger, thinking big, all these things are very, very important.
Entrepreneurship often involves failure before success. That's something you just talked about. How can young entrepreneurs develop the resilience to keep going when things do not go as per plan?
That's easier. When you start as an entrepreneur, it's a mindset at the end of the day. When I went through that, I said, what am I? I have nothing to lose. I have not come with the wealth to start something. It's okay to fail. First come, what happens? Then you will still know how to survive. The food is not going to be difficult. But if you are afraid to fail, there itself, I think every day you will die. So that should not be the case. You will be doubtful, you will not take bold calls. I think business requires clearly kind of a thing. You should not be afraid to fail. That's why we say, fail fast, fail small. It's very important. So embrace that. It is okay to fail. And every failure is a big stepping stone, is my viewpoint.
Excellent.
I have not come across someone who said, right from day one, I succeeded without making any failures. Every step I succeeded. Ask anybody, they will count their own failures to show.
You started CavinKare with a small capital and built it into one of India's most admired FMCG brands. When you look back, what mindset or value truly defined your entrepreneurial journey?
I already talked about that. So that's what it's all about. I would say that fear of failure was not haunting me. But I was always ready to do that small experimentation and move on.
Excellent. Yeah. I think we have now come to the end of... There's one more? Okay, cool. Family business offices are gaining traction in India. What role do you see them playing beyond wealth management in shaping the long-term vision of legacy businesses?
So, I feel that family business offices are more important, as I said, when you have surplus money. And that's important. Putting everything in the business continuously is also not a good thing, I would say. When the business makes, you need to know how to draw money and start multiplying it in a different way. That is another way of insurance to the family and to the business. So that way, putting all the eggs in one basket is not good. So from that mindset, this is a mindset of entrepreneurs. Once you know that, the family office are very important when you start accumulating. You could have seen in your own experience, some companies or some families have invested small land parcels. Today they're worth crores, big time. And the unimagined kind of multiplications. It is across India it has happened. So those are very important things. Just start investing small land parcel in critical places and see how it grows over a period of years. I would say that in 25 to 30 years time, you will get disproportionate returns, and provided the selection of place is right. It is extension, the city will grow or the town will grow. If that is a kind of case, your business would not be giving that kind of return, guaranteed. All the best.
Thank you. I think we can all agree that that was a phenomenal session. Thank you, Mr. Ranganathan, for sharing your inspiring thoughts on leadership, legacy, and the evolving role of family offices. I speak for all of us gathered here when I say that you have endeared yourself to the audience. Your honest, practical, sensible, and value-based approach to ensuring the transition, guaranteeing the longevity and health of the family business is something that's a valuable takeaway to everybody present here. As we close this morning's plenary session, I invite Group Captain Vijay Kumar, Executive Director of the MMA, to offer the vote of thanks.
Group Captain R. Vijay Kumar, retired, VSM, Executive Director of MMA, is a decorated Indian Air Force veteran awarded the Vishisht Seva Medal by the President of India for distinguished service. An alumnus of Loyola College, Chennai, Group Captain Vijay Kumar is a seasoned leader with expertise in management and public service, under whose stewardship MMA has been recognized as India's Best Management Association for 15 consecutive years.
Once again, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I think we just come out of the master class from CKR. Now, my word of thanks, I don't want to set the tone what has been already put in your mind, actually. Because I known CKR for last almost since the time I joined. In fact, he picked me up to join MMA. I remember when he spoke to me, will you stay in MMA? I said, sir, forever I'll stay. I'm still staying, sir. And what a masterclass, because nobody could be better than Mr. CKR to speak. And when Raj and Yash, Pratima approached us to do this joint event, they asked me, whom do you approach? Whom do you recommend to be the chief guest? I said, straight away CKR, provided he's available. And somehow CKR has got a weakness for MMA and weakness for the businesses, and especially weakness for family business. I think we took best advantage. Thank you, CKR, for coming. And ladies and gentlemen, big round of applause to CKR for sharing his thoughts. And one thing what he said really resonated with me, because when I passed out of my Air Force Academy, first wish I got from my chief instructor is wish you grand failures. I remember, what do you mean? Yes, failure, success, attraction, and that's what CKR really emphasized today. I think failure makes you very, very successful. And he set the context for the entire duration of discussion what you are going to have it today. And we also have a lot of guests from CavinKare and also from Mr. Mali, my immediate past president, TT. And we have got a very, very good speakers lined up in next sessions, and I'm quite sure you'll have a very good time. And I must thank Kevin, especially Great Lake Institute of Management, especially Raj, and also Gautam for choosing MMA to partner with this event. And also over 900 people are watching this program live from all over India. And please share your questions. We'll try and accommodate as many questions as possible. And idea is that we want to share the knowledge. Not only this, we keep doing on many events. This evening we are doing on compensation with Mercer. 3 days back, we did on Data Protection Act. Our idea is to bring as much of knowledge as possible, act as a bridge between the source of knowledge and what others need. Idea is, even you listen few minutes, I think it will make quite a bit of change. I'm quite sure today, many people may be entrepreneur or may not be entrepreneur, may be a professional. But the lessons, what I think CKR said today is very, very valuable as an individual. He said one, I don't know how many of you noticed, values, integrity, very, very important, skilling, AI. I think everybody, a lot of youngsters who are watching, who are here, should really pay attention to these things, and I'm quite sure you'll be a great leader, great entrepreneur. You'll add a lot of wealth to your organization wherever you are there. Okay, thank you so much once again, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us this morning. It's indeed a privilege to have you with us this morning, and keep there and enjoy and join us for the lunch immediately after the event. We got a lovely library, go around. We got 29,000 square foot of beautiful space here. We do a lot of events, and thanks once again. Thanks to Great Lakes, Raj, Pratima, and Raj for joining us. It's really a pleasure to collaborate with you and take it forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Group Captain Vijay Kumar, for your gracious words and for summarizing the spirit of collaboration that defines today's conclave. We shall now take a short break for tea and coffee. Please use this time to connect with the fellow participants and speakers. We shall resume promptly at 11:30. Ladies and gentlemen, will we settle down please for the next session? I'm requesting you all to settle down please. We are beginning the next session. Thank you very much. I'd also like to make a very small and very humble request to everybody to please put your mobile phones on silent. Some of you have very interesting ringtones. We'd love to listen to them, but not in the middle of the conference. Kindly oblige. We move on to the next segment, which is the fireside chat, creating entrepreneurial families and the role of family offices. The members of the fireside chat are very engrossed in a chat of their own. May I request you both to please take the stage. No problem. It's nice to see that the teacher-student relationship is very active. வாதியார் வந்து பள்ளிக்கூடத்தில் வந்து டயஸ் ஏரியாச்சுன்னா எல்லாம் அப்படியே அமைதி ஆயிடுறீங்க. அது வரைக்கும் நான் இங்கே காலேந்து கத்திட்டு இருக்கிறேன், யாரும் கண்டுக்க கூட மாட்டேங்கிறீங்க. Right. So welcome back. Our next session is a fireside chat featuring Mr. Sameer Mehta, Chairman Dr. Mehta's Hospital, in conversation with our Professor Raj Krishnan Shankar. Would you please cue the AV for Mr. Sam Mehta?
Mr. Sameer Mehta, Chairman of Dr. Mehta's Hospitals, is a global leader in healthcare, venture capital, and family office management with extensive experience across Asia, Europe, and the Americas. A chartered engineer and fellow of multiple international institutions, Mr. Sameer is an investor, author, and speaker on innovation, leadership, and next-gen succession, with expertise spanning healthcare, technology, energy, and private equity.
So over to you, Raj.
Yeah, welcome back. I hope you had. Welcome everyone back after your tea break, and so I'm so glad to see so many of you and so much of conversations. We already had so many things being discussed when we got off this dais. The topic is important and it's hot, so thank you so much. Continuing from where we left in the first session, this session is taking a deep dive into family offices. And it's an absolute pleasure for me to have someone who actually who started a family office, who's running a family office. Mr. Sameer Mehta, thanks for coming here. So, Sameer Mehta is actually the chairperson of the Mehta Hospitals. He also runs a family office called the Atlas Family Office. Apart from overseeing his business, he also makes several investments. He co-invests, and he has several interesting things to share with us. He's also a co-founder of many entities like the India Home Health, Arya Play, Atlas Intelligence. He sits on several boards and so on. So in our fireside chat today, we're focusing a lot on his experience with the family office. We want to take a deep dive, understand what's going on, what are his perspectives. So please join me in welcoming Mr. Sameer Mehta with a round of applause. Sam, let's begin by just asking you the very fundamental, straightforward question. What's a family office, according to you? And and then we get from there.
Thanks, Raj, and thanks to the MMA friends and Gautam and many of the friends and family. I call it family at Great Lakes. So first of all, thanks for being here. If the audience is not here, my life becomes easier. Unfortunately, you're making it a little bit more complex. So it's a family office is actually quite simple. It's an investment structure to help transition family wealth from generation to generation so that it grows. So you are given, let's say, a pot of money like this from a previous generation, typically initiated by a liquidity event. So somebody has sold part of the business, or somebody has made abnormal returns, a bit like CKR said, and transitioned into something that maybe over a couple of generations is at this scale, right? So today, just to put perspective, $5.5 trillion globally is managed by family offices, right? So that puts it on par with hedge funds, and it's only half the size of the entire VCP ecosystem globally. And the irony is it represents 50% of VCP money that goes into them. So it's a big piece. There are around 300 family offices today in India. When we started the India component, so I'm only the founder of the India part of Atlas. Atlas was actually formed in 1991, formed in the UK. So it came out of an exit for one of the families in the food business, Patak Pickles. And they brought all their friends around the table who were co-investing, and they said, let's form a body. In those days, this was slightly before the openness of India and the opening of the rest of the world. So pre-globalization as it happened to a large extent, where how do you invest in different geographies of this world and grow your wealth across generations. So that's how we came to be. And I helped set up the family office branch in India in 2008. And I joke that we're still learning. The good news is if you just look at from 2008, I think the family wealth scale has grown significantly, and we've made about 120 plus investments and had 42 exits. It's the exits that matter, because that's what grows the wealth. You can say that you're in the money, and that's like keeping money in a bank. But unless you get the money back out of the bank, you don't know if you really made any money. Because unlike a bank, these are highly illiquid and sometimes highly volatile investments.
So it's interesting. You use a lot of terms that VCs, angels use all the time. Entry, exits, and exits are important. So how different, or in terms of the philosophy or the interest, difference between a family office vis-a-vis, say, traditional VCs, PEs? Do you do it differently, or you kind of do it very similar? Does it look similar?
No, it's very different, right? So just to give you context, I said family office is like an investment vehicle, fundamentally, to grow the wealth. So a lot of the wealth to the VCP comes from family offices. It comes from basically pension funds. It comes from other pools of capital. But the second biggest pool is family offices globally, which means that the limited partners, which is the investors in VC funds or PE funds, are typically family offices. The way we do it, at the end of the day, is we have to safeguard the wealth that some former generation or our generation has made, right? So if you've made certain amount of wealth, you have to take that and scale it. A VC is doing it with somebody else's money. In our case, if you're a professional, it is somebody else's money. But if you're like me, a family member in some of the families, it is our own money. So the way we look at it is you're safeguarding the wealth and trying to scale it for future generations. The way we operate is different. When you go to a VC fund, you'll maybe see around 20 to 40 people in an office. Maybe in a private equity fund, up to 100 people. In a family office, you will find it very rare in India or anywhere in the world to find more than 25 people. We're much smaller teams. We're a lot more focused. And in our case, a lot of VC funds don't return even the capital, especially in India. I think those of you who've been limited partners will know this. If you've been general partners, you love getting the annual fees, but you don't ever get carry, right? In our case, if you don't give the return, or what's called carry in the VC terminology, you won't be loved by the family that pays you. So you might be kicked out of the family, or you might be not invited to the next Diwali or Christmas meal. So I think family offices at the end of the day have more a stewardship role as well as a growth role. And unlike a VC or a private equity fund, their life is basically between 7 to 10 years. It's an investment product vehicle. For us, we do it across generations. So I'm already trying to help steward professionals as well as my own family members, as well as in our case, we're a multi-family office that's proprietary capital across the 5 families. So it's only 5 families. They're all Gujarati. Irony is, I think most of them don't live in India. Most of them don't live in Gujarat either. Like us, we're half a Tamilian family now, we joke about it. Or as folks like Mr. M V Subaya and Gopal Srinivas like to joke, you're a Gujarati Tamil Nadu Brahmin, which is the highest compliment I can get from 2 great business houses. And I think it's because we stand on the shoulders of giants. So let's be clear about it. In our case, a lot of the wealth came from giants who created that wealth in former generations. And our job is to help scale it, which is not easy either. Yeah.
So, since we talk a lot about the quantum of wealth here in terms of liquidity events, important events, is it like the family office makes sense only at certain scale, or and what about that scale? What sort of a scale at which it makes sense to run this separately as a entity, or just do it internally, part of the business until then? Any thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I think the way you introduced it at the start with your 5 family office, I'd add the 6th. Nowadays, you're seeing something called BFO. If you pardon my French, it's called a bullshit family office, which is one that pretends to be a family office, right? People like introducing themselves, they're important, right? So confuse everybody by saying you're a family office. Hopefully somebody think you're just an office. But on a serious note, it's about, I think in India, if you're an embedded one, as CKR said this morning, 50 crores would help, but 100 crores is probably the right number. If you're an independent family office, you're talking about $100 million, right? Your minimum surplus has to be around $100 million. Otherwise, it's not really worth setting up a separate entity. And I'm saying that specifically in India. If I was doing this, for example, in the UK, it would be closer to $300 million. So that amount changes quite dramatically. In the old days, they used to say $500 million, but the hard reality is that's changed dramatically over time. So when we started India, there were less than 10 family offices in India. There was the Narayan Murthy one, which is called Catamaran. There was the Nadathur Holdings, which came from one of Mr. Shibulal of Infosys, and I think his partner. And so there were a couple of these that were like that, but not enough. There were very, very few. So I think the DLF had just founded, no, they hadn't founded because they hadn't gone public. So they needed the wealth event. So you had a Wipro family that had a family office, but it was very, very few. So we didn't have a playbook to really go and talk to folks, what do others look like in India? But we had that playbook from the other side of the world, right? Because I'm the 3rd generation in the, as the chairperson of the current global family office, right? So having created India, India has been the biggest success for the families across all 5 families for us in terms of net returns. So one of the ways you know you succeeded is when everyone talks your language over time. And so when we first started and I got into this, we used to talk about where you invest, where you party or celebrate. So it was you travel to Switzerland or you travel to the UK or the US or Australia. Or in my case, where do you get returns and where do you therefore have the exit party? We call it the celebration party because you've actually made something, right? Versus the you've got something, therefore spend it. And I think the other piece that we have done really well is that next generation transition for people joining the family businesses as well as learning how to invest is something we've probably done for most of India. So I sit on 2 national and global family office governing bodies, of which pretty much most of the discussion when they come to us is how do you get next generation? Because our values are the same. I think most of you who sit in family businesses, you want your kids to have many of the values that you represent, right? And they will have many of those values, but they will also have other values. Their priority of values will be different. I think that's the reality. And I think what you've got to find is the common ground. What is the common ground between your values and your parents' and your grandparents' values or your kids' values. And if you can bridge that well by having that conversation regularly, right? The irony is most people have a values conversation when problems take place. You should actually have a values conversation in good times, because that's when you're transitioning these. So I think that's a big piece that we have had the privilege of being able to learn from the values of our forefathers. So we're very clear, we stand on the shoulders of giants. And it's only because of them that we have surplus, that we're able to invest, and we've been able to grow, right? If my parents had not pushed us to go and get formal educations in the other side of the world, including studying under Professor Bala, the founder of Great Lakes, I don't think we'd have been capable of even running this family office or being part of the stewards of setting it up across India. So today, there are 300 family offices in India, right? And just to give you a sense of scale, I think CK said it's $1.5 trillion in India, right? Which is a huge amount, right? If you actually think about family office influence, and now today we have guys like the DLF family who I share time with, the Thermax family, TVS, Murgappa, lots of the homegrown families that have set up family offices to help scale their existing wealth here. CAMS, Mr. Shankar, lots of very solid guys, both locally as well as broader. I think that's good to see, because it means that the blood, and we co-invest a lot together. The interesting thing is, who do you typically invest with? We invest with a lot of professionals like bankers and wealth managers. We invest in a lot of startups. But actually, how do you know where to invest in? In a family office world, when your wealth is longer term and you're trying to scale it, you actually want to invest with, other people who make more money, right? And who have expertise in that geography or in that functional area. This is very different from a VC fund. If you think about a VC fund, 80% of them have never run a business. Think about it. They've never run a business, and yet you're giving them your hard-earned money to make more money. They've never even run a bloody business. And what is their job? To advise other businesses how to be successful. So it's like a consultant or a banker educating you how to do your job. And actually the expert is you. It's the irony of this time.
No, it's interesting. So since you mentioned so much about engaging the next generation, bringing them on board into this, just wondering, what are some of those practices that you experienced when you got in, or you do with the next gen, which enables them to actually, one, integrate into the business overall, and particularly with wealth management?
It's a tough question, because I actually was brought into the business first. So I come from Dr. Mehta's, which I think you all know. Also, for those of you who maybe gone abroad, the Patak Pickles family. I'm also the scion of that business family. And in our case, I didn't come with a background of health. I don't have a health. I'm an engineer by first degree. And unfortunately, I wasn't smart enough, so I have to keep studying every now and then. I'm still studying, right? Not terribly intelligent. But I think the way I was brought in, so I worked in professional organizations for a big chunk of my life. I ran my own company, and those were preconditions to coming into the family business, both of them. I had to go and build a brand outside. So I'd gone and worked as a professional in big companies like Shell, like McKinsey, in the consulting business, the United Nations. I was there when Putin came to power, so that dates me a little bit. I'm a bit older than you, Raj. It's easier being a professor than it perhaps is in families. Please, as you age. I'm still young, but no, you should also say you're young. But on a more serious note, we had to go prove ourselves outside. We had to go prove ourselves in some of the toughest, best companies somewhere else, and then come back. And I was fortunate to work in really good companies. I was on the Shell's fast track. I was on Exxon and BP's fast track before that. And then after that in McKinsey on the director track, as they called it. But for me, I always knew that I wanted to do something that was where you build and do your own. So being a consultant was only a temporary stopgap. And McKinsey is a great firm to learn, but I think Shell's a great place to learn to run a business. I think that was a big piece. But since Mali has come in, I'd say another big learning experience for me was in the Chennai Angels. Because I think you get smarter when you co-invest with smart people like Mali, with people like Gopal Srinivas, Ramraj. You're smart with Ranga. CKR is also in the Chennai Angels. And I think when you co-invest with them, you get to learn about other businesses with the best front seat drivers. I mean, co-investing with Mali on something in the automotive space. Hey, you walked in, give some brand TCA, man. But you think about it for a next generation coming into a business, it's a great way to learn from stalwarts. It's an outstanding way. So I didn't know much about fintech. I didn't know anything, in fact, about fintech until I co-invested with Mr. Shankar, who's a close friend of both of us. We didn't know much about tech. I now sit on boards of AI companies, right? Which is a long way from not even understanding tech in the way it is talked about today, because my tech was seeing maybe a big drilling rig or a chemical plant. That was the tech that we were brought up with, or in a hospital environment, a CT machine. That was tech. And today, if you look at that, it's very different. So proving yourself somewhere, I think matters, because that gives you confidence. Think about it like that's important. Spending time in a family business is very important because it grounds your values a lot. I joke, I went and studied in one of the top schools abroad as an MBA. I said I wasn't very smart, so I had to become smarter. And I had to unlearn a lot of that when I came back to India. Because I think when you spend time in a family business, a lot of them are basics, right? And in business school, they don't necessarily teach you the basics. They give it all nice words and talk about finance and talk about marketing. And we all think that's extremely sexy. If you use it in that context, it just sounds exciting, right, on this world. And I think that's, how do you call it? The world is actually based on basics. If you don't get your foundations right, the house doesn't stand, right? And the same with values and family businesses across generations. So I came first into the family business. I had to prove myself a little bit in the family business. I had to prove myself in investments. Now, what I haven't said is in 2007, I was investing in companies as a little bit of an angel. And the first couple of them, whatever we touched became gold. And I will say that was not because they were the best of entrepreneurs or we are outstanding investors. A bit of that maybe is true, but it was a lot about we worked with the entrepreneurs to help them make better decisions in their business like a partner in crime, not like a VC, because a VC thinks they're an evaluator in crime, right? Whereas an angel or a co-investor, the way when we first came in Atlas was that we're a partner to you, right? When we invest in something. And our first company, we invested in a company called GI Tech in Chennai. We invested when they were at zero revenue. 4 years later, $400 million revenue. 4 years later. So $100 million a year, right? That was the first. And the first 5 companies were hits. That's why the family office globally said, this guy is a bit different. Let's make him work for us and earn some money. And so then that's how I got to join the family office. So I think family office, you should go and prove yourself somewhere because it's cheaper to earn it for somebody else than to earn it for yourself. Trust me, it is cheaper. In family businesses, if you're a parent and you have your child here, let them go prove themselves somewhere on something they love doing. Because if they love doing that, they'll typically go somewhere. And then bring them back into the family business in the right way. And I think if you do that well, your family business will do well, right? Because this is a person who is sat around dining tables or lunch tables or breakfast tables and have heard the stories of values. They probably have not had a proper holiday because every holiday has been family business holiday, right?
So just out of curiosity, could you tell us about one of your investments? I mean, which has been like interesting or where you kind of shaped them to a one amazing exit, and maybe if it's okay, one where you did everything and it failed.
Okay, I can use both Chennai companies here. India Home Healthcare is a good success story. So we helped create it in, so this was the first home healthcare. I think today everyone knows what it is. These nurses and physiotherapists and doctors at home. That was the base business model with tech. And we had looked at that market because we had a great co-founder that came to us, a guy called VT Tyagarajan. Some of you may know him, based in Chennai. So VT, who's a tech entrepreneur, came to us, a first generation tech entrepreneur, and said that I've got this great idea. It's something that works in the US. I've got a friend who wants to do this, but I need an Indian partner. And Sam, I've spent enough time with you. I think you'd be a great person to do that because we'd worked together in one of our other investments in Atlas, right? And VT came and he said, would you be okay as a co-founder? So I said, look, I've got a day job. I've got a hospital day job and I've got a family office investment day job. I don't need a night job as well. Already I was working nights, so definitely didn't need more work. And so we found a CEO, and we interviewed a lot of CEOs, by the way. The head of, there was Star Health Insurance, somebody from the Apollo Hospitals group, somebody from our own Meta Hospitals. And we then found a German CEO, and Frank Goller. So we found a German guy who was very process driven, because home health is about making sure you're safe with customers, your patients. Unlike a hospital, there are 6 people who will protect you in a hospital. There'll be a doctor, head of department doctor, there'll be the chief medical director, there'll be a nurse, there'll be a head of nursing in the department, there'll be a physio, right? So there's 6 other people there to keep you safe in a hospital. In a home environment, there's only one person, that nurse or that physio. The other piece is, it was not that safe as you scaled across this business, as you went into North India and smaller parts of India, to keep your staff safe. Right? Because a predominant number of the staff would be young ladies under the age of 35, right? Many of them in their first jobs. So how do you keep a group more process centric and growing? And just to fast forward that journey, we gave it one other round of capital, so 2 rounds of capital. We helped them get a key investor, and then we sold it to the world's number 3. A company called Biada Home Health. They picked it up from us along with a pharmaceutical major based out of India, and it was a 22 times return. Chennai-based company, did very well. It was the first one. So the joke I have is, when we started the business, there was nobody else, and we had the first 100 staff in home health. When we exited the business, there were over 600,000 people working in the industry, because the moment you go and talk to a VC, they'll invest in somebody else or they'll set up their own. That is the one downside of talking to VCs, that they think that they'll find a better entrepreneur sometimes. In this case, they didn't find better entrepreneurs. What they did find, though, is because we went to the world's number 3 as a co-investor then, they said, wow, there's so much money coming in. And at that time, this was pre-Flipkart and pre all those exits. This was the first time one of the world's heavyweights had come and invested it and bought an Indian company. So if you're there early, you do well. So that's a great success story for us. And I think it comes down to 3 simple elements. The first was, we brought the business values into play. We had investment discipline in play, but we had professionals running the business like professionals and having board meetings and a lot of that. And I have to thank my co-founder, VT, because technically he ran the business. I only helped get the first 100 customers. And then Frank did most of the work, along with a great team of people. The other one, which is a not so great experience, we had a joint venture with a company called Everon Education, which at the time was one of the heavyweights of education in India. And that was a co-investment to set up schools, hospitals, and medical, when I'm saying schools, medical schools and nursing schools across India. So we'd actually raised $300 million into that from some of the world's top investors, IFC, the World Bank, Proparco, and some of the other VC investors, and we didn't have any revenue, right? At the time, this medical education arm of Everon had no revenue. And it was something where we, because of our brand and my background in McKinsey and some of the other companies and great networks like the Chennai Angels, we were able to bring really great companies. And I actually have to say the biggest source of capital was probably because people knew Mehta Hospitals and Pataks. So a lot of that family business that we came from helped in capital from serious investors. We made the commitment, we helped the company get some early legs, because in a family office, the way we operate, every family office is different. We want to make sure when we put money in, especially into businesses that we have some understanding of, let's roll up. Let's spend some time on a table. And that is our model. That is always going to be our model. And that's different from a lot of just pure family offices, where perhaps they don't have the operating discipline and experience that we have. They would have a professional from a banking or consulting firm. They probably have done enough work. They don't want to do this hand-holding. We enjoyed that hand-holding. The Everon education experience was very different. We worked with a good entrepreneur, a guy called Mr. Kishore. I got to spend time with Dr. Jamshed Irani. Dr. JJ Irani was on the board. And that's the reason we partnered with them, because of Dr. JJ Irani, and there was a couple of other very smart people on our sub-board as well. We made the original investment. Before we made the secondary investment, unfortunately, the parent company got into trouble. I think this comes back to basics, right? Their governance model wasn't right. Now, whether they really made a mistake, I don't know. But what I can say is the people they had around the table always gave me a sense of, are these guys after the right partner, or are these guys after the biggest check? Right? Sometimes people get distracted with the person who commits more money on the table today than perhaps saying that this is the partner. And if it's the right partner, actually, you know, they won't let you make a mistake. If you partner with somebody like, say, a Gopal Srinivas of TVS Capital, or in Chennai especially, or say the Chennai Angels, the likelihood of you making those mistakes is lower because you've got great partners by your side, right? You've got a board member, you've got people who help build a business. Versus sometimes people who think they're great financiers, or they're venture capital funds who have an MBA, who's had maybe a few years of experience, sit on your board, and that doesn't help the company get context. And I think in this case, the governance failed. We returned the money, so that was one thing that I did well. I went and apologized to all the people who'd made the commitment and who gave us the money. I'd gone and apologized. It was the first time Harvard, Stanford, and MIT were going to come under the same roof in medical colleges, in anywhere in the world. They'd never done it. And they didn't, I mean, honestly, Harvard coming to India was a big, big deal. So I actually rolled back to Harvard and Enschede Maastricht and a couple other universities, Barts, and apologized to all of them at the end of it when it didn't work. And they said, and I'll never forget this, the then president of the World Bank said, you know, you're the only guy who has come and apologized when you return the money. And I said, that is what our family should do, right? I'm a co-investor. It's because of us that you came to this. We helped make the commitment. It's not your team's fault that this made. It's my fault. Right? I took the responsibility. I've got broad enough shoulders that I can take the hit, right? And I learned that from family businesses and from working and investing with smart people. Mali, I'm pointing at you, just to be clear. And I think that's the value system that was given to us by the family, right? And the depth that, you know, if we make a mistake, we make a mistake. This was a big mistake. This was people committing $300 million, but they got all their money back. Here's the interesting thing. If you go to the rest of Everon, none of the others got their money back. Right? We lost some money. It was an unfortunate, we lost a significant amount of family wealth, but that was okay. If I look at that experience, I probably learned much more from that experience, because that was the first time in my life that I failed. Right? It was the first time. I needed people like Gopal and Ramaraj, fellow Chennaians, Rajiv Mecheri, Mr. Vijay Shankar of the Sanmar group, who said, Sam, let's go out for a cup of tea or a drink. You're a bit down. I know, we know that what you've done. And I really, really appreciated that. And I don't think I'd have got that anywhere else in the world other than in Chennai. I don't think I'd have done that. That's one thing in Chennai.
It's awesome.
And many of these people, I think, are part of MMA. And you have to say that that is the strength of, I think, these groups and bodies, where with the value system of what we represent, that's what makes this a bit special. Because when you fall over, you need people like CKR. How often do you hear somebody who talks about family business saying that they want their kids to go make a mistake. Most of us don't want our kids to make any mistakes, right? But all our kids will make some mistakes. Love is unconditional. You should always learn that. You know, performance is conditional, but love is unconditional.
Interesting.
Your kids may or may not perform. Don't hold them that accountable that you beat them up. Because otherwise they won't come and ask you when they have a problem. Yeah?
That's an interesting piece of advice. So disconnect performance and love. I think that's good. I think, Sam, you also fairly reiterated the point that Mr. C.K. Ranganathan made in the morning, that one is experimentation, allowing people to make mistakes and allowing them to learn from mistakes. And I think some contrarian pieces of advice. And I think the most important is holding on to values. I think going back, saying, apologizing for things, I think that takes courage. So on that note, I think we are kind of running out of time, but maybe we can take maybe just one or two questions from the audience, and before we close. Yes, so we'll see if we have covered most of it. Given your global experience, how do you see the role of family office evolving with mere wealth management entities to becoming strategic incubators that nurture entrepreneurship within families? Does it go beyond wealth management? I think
this was partially answered.
Yes.
Every family office is different, right? And in India especially, I told you how it's grown very fast, the number of family offices. A lot of that is because this is a generation that's created a lot of wealth and harvested a lot of wealth. A lot of big first generation entrepreneurs have sold their companies. A lot of private equity companies have bought very good existing companies that have been there for a long time. And we've seen many of these around. So I think there are a lot of families that now incubate businesses. They're not the same as an incubator, right? An incubator will give you some gyan, they'll give you some office space, and they'll maybe give you guidance. A family office incubation normally gives you wealth, and they'll give you their networks. And that is a huge deal, right? I will tell you the value of a family office network. You take something like TVS, if you get their network and you're doing something in automotive, it's phenomenal. Right? If you take something like, if you're doing something in the financing business or in the automotive servicing business, and you get somebody like Mali or their family office, Mali, they're a good guy. Or for example, you're doing something in Great Lakes and you have somebody like the Lakhan Raju family helping you, or the Balachandra family helping you. I think that goes a long way in having legs to make you successful. Or you're going to want to do servicing, and maybe in tractors, the amalgamations group as a family office as a partner is a useful partner to have. Or the John Deere family.
He's not leaving anyone in the audience, so he's having a field day. But quickly, just to jump on and close this, I think we did cover several elements, but are there anything particular with structure or culture? I think you did touch several of those. I think structure is probably one thing you may want to just touch a little bit.
Yeah, look, most structure of family offices here will, it changes, right? Because to be tax optimized, let's use the right word, tax optimized, you have to, we fundamentally believe in paying taxes, right? Dr. Mehta's consumer business been there, we're 92 years old, we're the oldest surviving private hospital in the country. It's not because we were the first guys, there were guys who were great neighbors who used to share time with us. Unfortunately, the real estate value, bad decision-making, succession have all played a role, right? HM Hospital doesn't exist. Wellington Hospital doesn't exist. Zubeda Hospital doesn't exist. And I can keep listing out huge number of names of great partners and neighbors in the city. I think the structure at a moment in time is always around tax optimization. So trusts are good at the moment. Some degree of private companies is good, but it's not tax optimal. And the other piece that tends to be useful is this NBFC model that now people are exploring. The government and SEBI are trying to do something with family offices, but I'm not sure an AIF structure, unless you make it a 100+ year or 1,000-year structure, is going to work for us. I think telling somebody they're a 10-year, 20-year structure in a family office when you're trying to give the wealth across generations is solving a different problem for somebody else. It's not solving our problem.
Okay, I think this question sort of answered because how can family offices use patient capital to foster innovation? I think he did give examples of how it's done. So we can move to the next one. Last question. And yeah, I think he did talk. I mean, is there like top 2 criteria? I think you did. Yeah, several of them. Yeah. Okay, so I will, let's look at one more question. Key mindsets, next gen leaders develop to balance responsible stewardship. Again, I think it's sort of covered several of this during the talk. So I hope you have. If you haven't, please catch Sam after the talk and clarify. Okay, so just to kind of wrap up, I have 2-3 sort of rapid fire, and I really want it to be rapid, Sam, because we need to give space to the others. So one book or idea that deeply influenced your thinking about legacy or wealth?
Robert Jordan's The Wheel of Time. Death is lighter than a feather, duty heavier than a mountain.
Wow. What's more difficult, running a hospital or running a family office?
Running a hospital. Many more consumers and many more stakeholders, the doctors, the staff. 2,000 people, you have to make sure that they have a good life. Million plus 10 million customers we have today, making sure that they have great legacies and they have good health, even though they don't visit the hospital.
Yeah. Last one. One mistake families should avoid when thinking about next gen and wealth.
I think you should definitely not ask the next gen to do what you did, right? I think let them find what they love to do, their passion, and let them do it in a safer environment. So if I'll answer that one question that came earlier. If you can give them an entrepreneurial opportunity, if you can allow them to join a family business or a startup and then come and join the family business, I think it will help. If you then get them from a family business into a family office, it will help as well, as long as they've proven themselves. Because they have to have proved themselves in the financial stewardship.
Fantastic. So wonderful chatting with you as always, Sam. Thanks a ton. With that, we come to a close of this fireside chat. Thank you so much. I hope we answered. And if he hasn't answered many of your questions, please catch him after the session.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Mehta and Dr. Raj, for that rich exchange of ideas. This is a candid conversation. It could have gone on endlessly, actually, offering us a ton of information, a lot of it candid, and much of it that is not easy to talk about. So we are indeed very grateful. I call upon Dr. Raj Krishnan Shankar to please hand over a token of our appreciation to Mr. Sam Mehta. Right. May I request Mr. K. Mahalingam to also please hand over a token of the MMA's appreciation.
No, wait for this person.
Mr. Mahalingam is, of course, no stranger to all of you. He is the past president of the MMA.
Despite me calling you several times. Thanks, sir. Oh, good guy. Close up for a picture. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you very much. We move on to the next session, which is the panel discussion. Okay, we now move on to the concluding session of the day, which is the panel discussion, moderated by Dr. Triti Srinath, Professor of Organizational Behavior, Great Lakes, Chennai, and featuring the following eminent panelists: Mr. K. Mahalingam, past President of the MMA and Partner Director of the TSM Group of Companies; Mr. Arun Sarathi, Managing Director, Sargam Metals Private Limited and CEO of Sargam Cathodic Protection LLP; Mr. Vijay Srinivasan, Director of Marketing, Maya Appliances Private Limited, who are here with us today to unpack the nitty-gritties of integrating the next generation into the family business.
Good afternoon, everybody. I know we're a little behind time. We were supposed to close at 1. I might go on till about a little after 1. Please allow me that, because we have some eminent panelists here and I would like that we benefit from their being here. May I sit down? Yes. Okay. So, okay. Go ahead.
Dr. T. Srinath, Professor of Organizational Behavior at Great Lakes Institute of Management, Chennai, is a behavioral scientist, entrepreneur, and certified sensitivity trainer with over 4 decades of experience. An alumnus of XLRI Jamshedpur with a PhD from Anna University, Dr. Srinath has trained over 35,000 professionals worldwide and is renowned for his expertise in psychodrama, leadership development, and organizational transformation. Mr. K. Mahalingam, Partner Director of the TSM Group of Companies and past President of MMA, is a distinguished leader, transformation specialist, and investor with over 35 years of experience. An alumnus of NIT Trichy and IIM Calcutta, Mr. Mahalingam has transformed T.S. Mahalingam and Sons into a leading South Indian brand, diversified TSM into financial services and real estate, and actively mentors entrepreneurs as part of the Chennai Angels and various alumni and professional networks. Mr. Arun Sarathi, MD of Sargam Metals Private Limited and CEO of Sargam Cathodic Protection LLP, is a seasoned engineer with over 4 decades of expertise in aluminium metallurgy, recycling, and marine cathodic protection. A graduate of the University of Madras and University of Michigan, Mr. Arun has led Sargam's transformation into a global leader serving the Indian Navy, Coast Guard, and international marine industries through innovative, high-quality corrosion protection solutions. Mr. Vijay Srinivasan, Director, Marketing at Maya Appliances Private Limited, brings over 25 years of experience in business leadership, marketing, and corporate governance. Mr. Vijay has held key roles across several companies, including Preeti Kitchen Appliances, and is known for driving brand growth and aligning business strategies with evolving market opportunities in the consumer durables sector.
So good afternoon once again. We've had an exhilarating morning with several people sharing their thoughts, and I'm sure this panel that is sitting here, eminently competent, qualified, and erudite, will make a lovely wrap-up of this afternoon session. So before I actually begin the conversation with them, I just thought I'd going to run through what I've heard this morning and I hope it resonates with three of you and with the rest of you here. So we started with Mr. Surya Prakas telling us about building a lasting legacy. The theme of today's conversation that these three people are going to be involved in is integrating the next generation into family businesses. Ironically, a lot of you sitting here are youngsters, so I'm wondering how integrating would sit with you. But perhaps since you're going to take over businesses from your folks, it is important to hear what people of wisdom have to say. So, Mr. Surya Prakash himself is, I think, a second-generation entrepreneur. So, he talked about building a lasting legacy. So, apparently, that is important. Because each of you who's sitting here and each of you who's going to be taking over your businesses has to bear that burden of legacy, good and bad. So, it's important that you recognize that you carry behind you a tremendous past. And then we had Mr. Lakam Raju, who spoke very, very interestingly about the sociological aspect of business. And I think what Mr. Lakam Raju said was very significant, because what I think the Great Lakes Institute of Management is attempting to do, and I know this because I have in a way, a ringside understanding of it, is to sensitize all of you, the youngsters who are getting into business, to understand what it means to continue the legacy of family businesses. And that is interesting because 79% of India's GDP comes from family businesses, big and small. So whatever way you look at it, whether it's running a kirana merchant or whether it's running a business, a manufacturing business, there is a family business and there is a family involvement always. So I think what Mr. Lakam Raju said is very, very significant. And I think Great Lakes is going to be ahead of the pack when it actually sensitizes people to understanding how family businesses manifest over the next generation. And then we had Dr. Raj, who spoke about family businesses being the backbone of businesses, which I think is also very, very relevant. And then Mr. CKR said something very interesting. He spoke of two interesting concepts. He said there is something called a family business and there is something called business family. I wonder how it sits with you when he says family business. Does it mean you come from a family that runs business? And if you're from a business family, does it mean that your family is in business and therefore you're in business? I think that was a very interesting point that he brought up. He also said something interesting about meritocracy, which I think is very, very significant. And why this becomes relevant in talking to you before I introduce my panel, because each of them sitting here, I think more than just being part of family businesses, bring merit to the business. For instance, Mr. Arun Sarthi, besides coming from a business that his father started, has a degree from Gindi and a degree from Ann Arbor, which is considered one of the world's best universities in the world. So I think you can give him a big hand for bringing merit into engineering. And then we have Mr. Mahalingam, who again comes from a family business, traditional, selling cars, which is how I remember you. And beyond that, but to go to the IIM Calcutta, to go to IIM Calcutta and to come to qualify in state-of-art management, suggests somewhere that he recognized long ago that it's more important for you to understand the nuances and the professionalism of business than it is merely to be educated. So I think you owe him a big, do I say standing ovation? Because you've already been serenaded many times by Sam. But anyway, please do give him a big hand for having joined us here. And finally, we have Mr. Vijay Srinivasan. I think it's very interesting. His profile is very, very complimenting. He comes from the Faculty of Management Studies, Delhi, so he has an MBA. But beyond that, even as he left the Institute of Management in Delhi, he started working on his own businesses. So he worked for Coca-Cola, he helped set up the Lipton iced tea brand in India, and he started consulting for companies, later on joining his father-in-law and brother-in-law in helping to grow the brand called Preeti Mixi, which you probably have all heard of, and then sell it to Philips to make a whooping profit. Is that right? And therefore, he's here today with us to tell us how you manage not just building businesses and how you can transfer and make money out of them. So having said all this to you, I think the point that I really want to start the discussion with three of you, and I'd like you to have a conversation more than my asking you questions, is Mr. C.K. Raghunathan spoke about something very significant. He said that family businesses suffer because they lose risk appetite. That was one thing he said very, very conspicuously. So the question I'm asking each of you, Mali, Vijay, and you, Arun, is that tell me, in your own way, in your own journey as family businesses and as people who entered family business, what are some of the common mistakes that families make when they induct next generation? And I think it's important that all of us hear this, because you have not just an understanding of family businesses, and you've seen what the pitfalls are. So starting with you, Arun, would you like to share with us what are some of the common mistakes families make when inducting the next generation?
I think that's a very, very relevant question. I've had the opportunity of also spending time with some children from, I'm saying children, but young people from family businesses who are in Great Lakes, and we're doing some mentoring. So there's a very, very big onus on the patriarchs or the people who are in the business to make sure that the environment is good for the next generation to come in, right? I would say that about 70 to 80% of the responsibility is with them to create an environment which is welcoming and which nourishes, the next generation to come in. It may seem apparent, but it's not so. There are so many cases where, this doesn't happen, and there are problems of adjustment, the problems of, people coming in and setting. In fact, I want to throw a question to the panel about, C.K. Ranganathan made a very valid point about meritocracy. Now, who decides that? Is it based on the marks that you got in college? Who decides that, you are more meritorious than your brother? I'm just being argumentative, but, who decides you're more meritorious than your cousin or your brother or whatever, right? These are the kind of problems that really happen in a family business, where willy-nilly you need to be together to run the business. You can't fire somebody like you would in a normal business. So the biggest thing for, tripping up a family business is the existing promoter, the senior most person there, not creating an environment which is nourishing, which welcomes the next generation, and which clearly lays down the rules by which they will have to abide if they want to be in it. And if they don't want to be in it, what choice do you provide them? All of this needs to be thought through if that business really needs to carry forward from one generation to another.
Lovely. Mali, you've been in a traditional business, and then you've come into this and you've changed the profile of your business. What do you believe are some of the mistakes that may have been committed by an earlier generation, and you for yourself?
Before I start, some disclaimers.
Say again?
Some disclaimers before I start.
Yeah.
Sam Mehta is a good friend. Don't believe all that he told you. Secondly, okay. My story is a little different, actually. I will start with my generation transition because that gives perspective on how things can happen. I never wanted to, after NIT Trichy in Calcutta, I had an offer from Lintas. I used to write copy and loved it. I had to come back because my father fell sick. Okay. And it was not very cool those days to be a used car salesperson after an IIM degree. A joke is that most prospective brides' fathers didn't want their daughters to get married to a used car salesman. That's the truth of those days. Okay. So it was hardly cool. Okay. So it was not the best of times. The only thing I realized then was whatever we did, beyond what we did actually as a business, we enjoyed tremendous goodwill in the market. So that is where I started with the business. That's the reason I stayed back. Many things happened. I won't delve into that. I got into something new because of financial services type, etc., which kept me going there. And jokingly, I used to say in those days that I would rather sell cars for myself rather than sell chocolate for Cadbury's. So that's where I started. On the mistake side, I think I had to discover all this myself. But the next generation who are coming in, there's a tendency to force fit them into existing businesses. Because there's a temptation of asking them to do more of the same. While that's important, I think it's important to understand, as Sam had mentioned, they should do something they love, basically. The good way to do this, I was lucky to do it involuntarily, is while we do continue to do what we do and have people running what we do, they should, if it is, in our case, it was very logical, to use the goodwill to chase adjacencies. But in auto loans, it was auto finance, for example. We're the first distributor of car loan products. So if you can, for example, we've been in real estate for some time now. What we've done recently, the next generation has started a development company now. So if you can create opportunities which continue to use the goodwill. Our core values are basically, as a company, we try hard to retain transparency, integrity, and honesty with customers, and work very hard to strive it at a huge financial cost, I would say. We have sacrificed profit for goodwill, is what I would say. Consciously, it's not as if we didn't do that. So the goodwill can be utilized. It's already been utilized in some way across adjacencies. Multiple adjacencies, because the customer segment is more or less the same for many of the services which we are in. So you would rather do that than ask them to do the same thing. Many times there's this temptation to force fit the next generation because you want them to do it. I think that's a mistake which is very avoidable, because I don't think with their exposure to what they have and the way they approach life, I think they want to be part of the cool thing also, apart from what they do. You should not ask them to do because you've been doing it. I think that's a mistake one should avoid if possible. Yeah.
Thank you, Mali. Vijay, I was introducing you. So Vijay, in some ways, is in a business today that is run by his family, he and his father-in-law and his brother-in-law. So Vijay, one of the things I want to ask you is, you have, in drama, we have a word called spect-actor. That is, you're not just the actor, you're also watching yourself act. So in some ways, you have an outside view. You came into this business, you married into the family which runs the business. So you've seen your own brother-in-law having to come into the business. What do you believe, and it's important because as we sit here, what do you believe may have been or could have been some of the common mistakes that were actually done in introducing family members into the business that you are now part of?
Good one. From an outlaw to an in-law. Yes. So, I think, it's to take the words of what I think Sam mentioned earlier, all of us stand on shoulders of giants, right? And in a family business, there's always this hoary tradition, this goodwill that's been spent on a lot of things in creating the business. That goodwill that has been earned and then spent on creating the business. And the advantage that one has by being, a professional first and then entering a family business, which is what a lot of people have alluded to, of being able to go out, learn, build experience, prove yourselves, and then come in, is it teaches you a lot of empathy. And you're able to correlate, what I've learned personally is an ability to be able to sit in the shoes of people who work for family businesses as professionals, as employees, and then also have a very inside view of how the entrepreneur sees the business in terms of being able to manage, that ecosystem, and how to be able to be a buffer between, what typically the professionals or the employees in those businesses would aspire for, would have challenges facing, would have challenges in terms of being able to communicate things, etc. And how the entrepreneur must constantly keep recalibrating their view to deal with those situations. Because invariably what happens is, in most businesses which are run by personalities or families, and in many cases I'm sure a lot of the young ones here will also realize, your father or your grandfather who started the business would have been larger than life and continues to be larger than life in those businesses, right? They continue to wield the influence they have simply because, there's a lot more capability down the line that can continue to be ascribed to them, even while you feel competent to want to be part of it. And we should respect that. And at the same time, we should be able to earn the trust and the ability to be able to perform independently and be able to drive things. And the best way to do that is to do that from within, to also be a worker, to also be an employee, and then to be able to grow from within in the family business.
Fantastic. It's very interesting, the three of you saying, I also come from a family business, a fairly well-known family business, and Arun and I are married into a family business which is now going to be 150 years shortly. So one of the things that I experienced, and maybe this is important for all of you to know, is I heard you use the word goodwill. Marlene, you heard you use it, Vijay. I'm just wondering, I believe when children in families get in family business, is there a challenge between understanding entitlement and ownership and management? What is your take on that? Do children who come into family businesses believe they have a sense of entitlement And are they able to distinguish between ownership and management? And therefore, if that is a conundrum, the question that I have is, how would you respond to breaking in this next generation into the business? One of the things that Sam spoke about was values. And he said you have family values, but you have their values. Now, given this whole gamut, values, entitlement, ownership management, my question to each of you is, how would you be able to actually induct this next generation to the business when they have their ambitions, which are not the same as what was started by the people who began the business? So starting with you, Mali, because you've been in a family business, and then do you get my question, Mali? My question clear?
I kind of get your question. Understand, given the, let me repeat what you're trying to say. We want to understand how do you make sure that the next generation, which might come with a sense of entitlement, how do you inject them into the business and get them the values? Is that the question or more?
Part of it. Also to say that, is there this dilemma of entitlement, understanding entitlement, ownership, management, and also respecting values, and also wanting to do something which is not part of the old business?
Perfect.
The whole confusion.
Yeah. I think the last part I answered in a different way, but I'll tell you. Entitlement, see, CKR mentioned it beautifully. He says every third generation kind of destroys businesses. That's partly because of the wealth having been created. The first generation has fire in the belly. The second generation might have a little of fire in the belly, and the third generation is likely. I'm not saying it's true. There are many companies which are proved otherwise also. So I don't want to be sweeping about it, saying that. So the fire in the belly, it's potentially could be lower, basically. So to that extent, there's a lack of hunger, basically. But the wealth having been the safety net in their mind could make them complacent, not necessarily always. These are factors which are real. So some of them I opt out and saying, I don't want to do this, just give me my share, give me my money, I'll do what I want. So that is possible. But at the same time, there is this generation especially has got this huge thing of being an entrepreneur. Okay, so it's a buzzword. As I mentioned, we look at that generation all the time, they want to do something on their own. So they're exposed to a milieu of being self-employed rather than being in employment. So there is a thrill in that. But as you rightly said, my niece wants to do something totally different from what we are doing. It is possible. But it has to be, the fact remains is you can't treat it like a startup because we have believed not in valuation but in values. So we're used to positive bottom lines all the time, but the current culture, not necessarily wrongly, is one of chasing growth, basically. So there are conundrums. That's a reality. Now, one way of addressing this is, as I said earlier, in what we did adjacencies. We could extend our adjacencies in either financial services, real estate services, etc., if they're interested. But if they're not interested in something not very similar to what we're doing, there is a challenge, I'll be honest with you, because then you become a financier or an investor rather than a part of the family business. But then, if you were willing to take the chance and say it'll be part of the portfolio, because a lot of things I did, my family never imagined doing, and they have backed it because a lot of what I've done is create wealth I've created in our generation, basically. But there is a challenge, and inducting them into it. For somebody who wants something very different, for example, somebody wants to do forex trading, for example. It's nowhere near what we have done in our life. So, but you could back it as an investor, and what could work for them was in a very indirect, tangential way, the goodwill we have could help them get kicked off. Goodwill and the net worth we have could get it kicked off. Beyond that, I don't think we could do anything directly because that's not part of our core business now. That's the reality.
Arun, would you like to?
So the point that you made about entitlement, I think, as Mali also said, this third generation syndrome, right? So people come into the third generation, let us say, as he said also, not 100%, but quite often, they come in with the view of what can the company do for me rather than what can I do for the company, right? Now, who can set this right? You can't blame the person coming in. It's basically the environment in the company, which is why I said the existing person, the patriarch, they should make it clear right from the beginning, these are the ground rules. And like Ranganath said, it was fantastic the way he said what his children need to do and how he put them out to do things on their own before bringing them in. So how many entrepreneurs have that kind of a mindset where they want the children to, go and learn for themselves and come back in, and allow them to fail also. And the point that Sam made about, differentiating between unconditional love and, conditionally, you're losing some money, therefore you're no good. So there's a lot of family dynamics there, which, if it is not properly done, is going to result in this third generation syndrome, if I may call it that. In fact, one point that, struck me, I think, Srinath, you said about family businesses contributing so much to the national GDP or whatever, right? That is one end of the spectrum. And Raj told about 300 families controlling $1 trillion. So what happened to the rest of them? Why didn't they grow? Why didn't the 300 become 400 or 500? Because somewhere I think they tripped up, right? Where the family, the next generations, etc., didn't get integrated and cause, the company to grow and the enterprise value to increase. I think there are a lot of questions to be asked and answered in this, and I think, people like Glim doing this kind of course have a good role to play in trying to educate the people who are running a business on how they should make their environment more, positive for people to come in and work. I think that is very, very critical.
So Vijay, as you said about the in-laws, outlaws, so what is your, what is your take on this question of entitlement and so on?
So, there's this very interesting circle alluded to also by what Mali just said. From hard times emerges great men. Great men create good times. From good times emerges weak men, and weak men again create hard times. And this cycle keeps perpetuating. And eventually that's the third generation syndrome that you spoke about, Arun, as well. So, while we probably need to figure out what is best for the business and how it should be sustained, and the family itself as a unit must take a conscious call to decide, whether to induct professionals to be able to run it at arm's length, to be on a family business council and then leave the professionals to run, business operations, or to be participative in some form. Many factors get taken into account. One is to recognize the intrinsic strengths of the different family members. It may just so turn out that, one of the members of the family is actually very good at public relations, and to be able to allow them to be the faces of the business instead of actually being in the back room and working accounts. The other would be someone who is probably extremely technically qualified and is just very happy doing what they do, and to allow them to take charge of certain other areas. So this kind of an appreciation of understanding what different members of the family want to do and to be able to allow them to do it is very good. At the early stages, I'm also reminded of, a very interesting friend's sort of business model, where in a large Marwari group, they made sure that none of the siblings or none of the scions of each individual family member worked in their own businesses, but went off to the other family's businesses and became an intern or an understudy or a trainee in those families, and circulated some time in being able to actually contribute and become a member, because there was no entitlement in those families where they were sent off to, and then eventually came back. So there are lots of these kind of examples, and we can probably build on that.
You want to say something, Arun?
Yeah, like the point that you made about, identifying talent, skill sets in your family. How do you make sure that, it's a question I'm asking, how do you make sure that the other people accept it? I think my elder son is really good at this, but the younger son says, no, I'm also good. So how do you manage this kind of conflict in a family? How do you ensure that it doesn't disrupt? If somebody can throw some light, it'll be good.
I'm also going to quote an experience of what typically happens in larger professional companies. Usually when there is a youngster who joins, many of these large professional companies, it could be the Unilevers of the world or the ITCs of the world and so on. The youngster has a mentor, and the mentor is never a middle manager or a senior manager. The mentor is always either from the board or from the founding sort of members. And the reason is very simple. It is that the enthusiasm levels at the youngest echelons of that company and the enthusiasm or the sort of self-actualized levels at the senior most levels of the company are the highest. And that's what is to be translated, right? The middle managers are mostly ones who are sort of caught up, distracted, driving most of the regular problems. So when it comes to understanding what the youngsters really are good at, where they should go, the ability to mentor that requires a certain kind of a statesman role that the pater familias or the mater familias or the families need to sort of be able to discuss very transparently and very openly and have a lot of difficult and honest conversations to be able to direct them into doing what they need to do.
So I will have one question for three of you, and then I have an individual question for each of you. So, we are, as Professor Raj and as Mr. Lakamraju said, we've introduced this family business program for the first time, and hopefully we are the first in the country and we'll go from place to place. So one of the things that we've been experiencing when we've been talking amongst ourselves is the aspect of communication between one generation and another generation. So there are three things that I see as requiring our attention. One is that when we are talking about intergenerational involvement in business, one is the language and the communication that happens between generations. Two, the technology. How do the earlier generation appreciate technology vis-a-vis new? And finally, coming back to what you said, Mali, is about work culture. So how do we integrate communication, technology, and work culture across generations when we rope in the next generation into the business?
See, technology, what's the other thing you said?
So, first thing with communication, the very language that they speak. My father spoke differently.
My thesis on this is very simple. If you internalize the values and the ethos of the organization that you're part of, these are tools around it, accordingly. Communication, technology, and all are ways you sustain those values and propagate these values within the organization. Communication is a challenge and technology is a challenge. See, today, fortunately or unfortunately, I think CK mentioned, our generation might not understand AI by themselves. But you make sure you have people who understand, because that's the need of the business. So if it's technology, either you do it or have people do it, and you should let the next generation experiment with it as long as it represents the ethos and the values and the broad business strategy. These are enablers, basically. You should adapt, because just because it's new technology doesn't mean it's going to enable the business, and otherwise you may not survive in the industry. It's a basic hygiene factor almost now. So technology has to be adopted, and maybe the younger generation is better at adopting the technology because they're intuitive about it. So I think communication also is very important. See, communication, if you ask me in a slightly different context, even within the same generation, a lot of the problems happen because of lack of communication, actually. Because, see, even the next generation, what happens, is that not everybody is equal in each generation. So there's always this, problems don't arise out of wealth most of the time. Problems arise because of egos and tough issues.
But you can say it louder so that people can hear it.
Problems don't arise necessarily out of money that is made by each, but there are ways to solve that for. You have arrangements which make almost everybody equal, but questions start coming in a growing company where somebody thinks they contribute more than the other person. These are real issues. But somebody, at a family level, you take those decisions professionally, and at some point, families decided to split business also because of this. Nothing wrong or right about it. Because these are real issues, Ashinath, because some people feel they're doing much more contribution than the others do. So communication is important through all this, and sometimes people take a call of making sure you take people along also. There are multiple approaches, Ashinath. So communication within the generation and across generations, and CK said it beautifully, or a dining table or a drive. Those are good ways to be in touch with aspirations, and you should hear it from them through somebody else. And technology is an enabler, and if it's consistent, all these things are consistent with the values and the ethos, I think it's a must do.
I think you said something interesting, because if you read the story of Mariko and Harsh Mariwala as a class case. I mean, he came from a family traditional business, decided to take out Parachute and Saffola and build it to what it was. But it is part of the same business. So good for you. Would you like to say something about this thing about communication, when I talk about communication, it's not merely the language. I think the manner in which we speak to one another, what the intent we communicate. Is there something, because you're seeing it happening, Vijay? Would you like to add a few words to it?
I just think that, from the standpoint of openness, transparency, etc., one of the things that gets missed out in today's day and age amongst many of the youngsters is the cadence of communication. And what I mean by that is the regularity or the ritual of communication. If there is a point in time where you feel that, things are getting missed out, establishing a code of conduct that says that we will have weekly meetings, establishing a certain cadence, even if you didn't really have anything specific to sort of contend or talk about, but you still sort of made it a point to be present for those sessions because there was just a simple exchange of views or ideas. And if you're traveling, even if you're available on calls, keeping that regularity and that consistency and that ritual of wanting to be able to meet and talk is very important in the early stages. Till such time that there's a settling in and there's an induction that happens within the family members.
Add something.
Yeah, go ahead.
Very interestingly, not just related to business, but something which kind of fascinates me all the time is that the combination of communication technology. This mobile phone has transformed the way we behave with each other. Communicate with each other. It's a wonderful way to, one-to-one intimate conversation without the world knowing. And many people are brutal. They'll say some things on one-to-one WhatsApp or something, which they'll never say in public. So it opens up an entire channel of communication, even with your generation or with the next generation, because most people who can't look you in the eye can say things in this mode of communication that they normally say when people are looking at them. So it's actually, you can use it positively, Srinath.
Thank you. Arun, would you like to say something before I...
Yeah, so this communication also means transparency. And as I said, I really believe that, the onus is really on the patriarch, people and who are bringing the next generation. They need to be able to explain to the next generation why and, be able to justify it, ask questions openly so that the next generation feels comfortable about it. So if this doesn't happen and if it's, I know better, I've been running this business for so many years, then, you're switching off and that's the biggest problem. And I'm really talking about MSMEs which are trying to transition. We're really not talking about the TVSs and the big companies which are already into 500 crores or 1,000 crores. So we really the small, medium enterprises which are trying to bring their next generation in and try to grow. And here, I think this lack of transparency amongst the people, amongst the senior generation is one stumbling block which needs to be addressed, in my view.
How much time do we have, Pratima, before we go into the Q&A? Say again? Okay, okay, so there's just one question to each of you quickly. Just want to ask you. So, one question that that Dr. Raj gave me and said I could ask you was that one of the things we are noticing now increasingly is that a lot of the entrepreneurs are looking at service-related businesses, whether it's IT or IT-enabled services, but you're from a manufacturing background. So how do you excite the next generation? And we have people in the FBE program who come from a background which is in manufacturing. How do you excite the next generation to get into manufacturing?
So here, actually, that's a very difficult question. You can't force somebody to come in and do, just because you've been doing this, right? You need to make it as attractive as possible, and you need to also look at what is best for. I might take a minute to explain this. I've been, thinking about this for a long time. I want to give an example. There's a good friend of mine who is himself the second generation entrepreneur in a company started by his father, and which he has grown to a very large extent. He sent his son to the US to study. I'm not really clear about the time sequence, but his company went into some trouble, serious financial trouble. He struggled, sold off some properties and managed to rescue it. By the time his son, who was in the US, got married to somebody who was also in the US, whom he met and fell in love and so on and so forth. So now that this company was into its second innings, having sorted out its first round of financial problems, my friend decided to bring his son back in and the daughter-in-law as well. As soon as he came in, he said, oh, he's come from the US, so I need to make sure that he's comfortable, brought him a BMW, made sure that he was given a huge salary, made him CEO, whatever. And the company hadn't really fully recovered from its past issues, so it went into a second spell of financial problems. So this boy who's come back from the US is now facing creditors in his doorstep, banks, legal issues, and so on and so forth. To cut a long story short, it was a disaster. His wife left him, saying, you brought me from the US to get into this mess, I don't want to be here. And she left him. And the company went into a real mess, I don't know, maybe insolvency or whatever. And my friend was walking around with his son CV saying, look, can you help him get a job? And that CV reads, he's 26 years or 27 years old, and the CV reads, for 2 years I've been a CEO of a company, right? That is his CV. I felt so sad for him because a nice, bright boy, the father wanting to do what is best for his son, brings him in without realizing that, it is not a sustainable business or it is not in a position where it is sustainable. So I think that all of us, want our children to come in. In fact, I was reading about a film director who was saying that his father was running a patra kadai, right, in his village, selling vessels. And his father was very keen that his son should, also get into that business. But he said, my interest was in Collywood and I came here, right? So just like that, all of us want our children to come in. It's probably an ego issue. We want to, if he comes in and takes over our business, we think that it is a tick mark for us. It's something that, makes us proud. But is it the right thing? Can you make it attractive for him? If he is qualified, then is this the best place for him to be? Or like Mali said, you give him room to expand into other things. So I can't say that, you must force fit somebody and get them into a manufacturing business and push it down his throat irrespective of its sustainability. I think the big question everybody needs to ask, is the business sustainable? Which means a whole lot of parameters in terms of financial, legal, so many other things they need to check to see will the business last and is it going to give him a good opportunity? Because we all want to do the best for our children, right?
So Mali, quickly, question. You have in many ways, and as I've known you from an arm's distance, have morphed into so many things. I mean, you've transformed the way that you've looked at your own business. I mean, we used to sell Cadbury's, and I know it was the building where your car.
Correct.
So we people who brought Cadbury's into the country. So anyway, talking of that, I just want to ask you, in this changing scenario, is this whole thing about intergenerational shift? Is it about rules, responsibilities, or is it about mindset? What is it really? Where does the tire hit the road? Is it rules, is it responsibility, or is it mindset that will shift the generation that's coming into the business?
I don't think rules per se will work because they come with some very strong energy and new ideas. What we think are rules are not the rules they will play by necessarily. You said something else apart from...
I said, no, is it rules or is it responsibilities that you're,
I think kids who are not part of business families, their milieu is, I call them the audacity of hope generation. They don't fear failure at all, basically. They wear it as a badge, they go back to a job and come back. So they are interacting with people of that generation when it doesn't matter. Failure is no longer a taboo. So I think rules don't work, and more importantly, I think you have to give them the freedom to experiment, which Ranga said beautifully, CKR said beautifully, and let them fail and come back. You should give them that room. Otherwise, they will feel, they move around in a generation which is doing that. And they should not feel constrained by what you're doing. But again, given the boundaries of what you do, I'll go back to the core values of not honoring payments, honoring customers, all that are non-negotiable for us. That is the bedrock on which we build everything. But if they want to try something new, as I told you, you can build it. So rules per se, but they should internalize a few ground rules. If in this if they wanted to start up, fund them and do it. So you're an investor and you lend them the brand, maybe. That's all. But with those guidelines. So I think this is how it works. I'd be realistic about it than say ABC tick list is it. I don't think they want to hear that way. They'd actually rebel. They might even play along with you if you don't say it. Basically, yeah.
So lastly, Vijay, quick question that, it's, you are now in the white goods and the brown good business. In a fast changing consumer world, what would leadership mean for the youngsters who are coming in? How do they cope with a fast changing world as the generation transits?
There's only one solution for that, which is to constantly be a learner. right? You cannot rest on the fact that you have a family business, that your dad did well, granddad did well, etc., etc. You have to be able to adapt. You have to constantly keep equipping yourselves with newer skills. The world is getting extremely dynamic. Technology is now the new sort of software, and I'm not talking about it in terms of just how AI or software services used to change the world, but it's really about creating one-person billionaire companies, one-person unicorns, 10-person unicorns. We no longer may need the kind of size and the scale that was being done earlier. So equip yourselves, constantly keep learning, and build empathy as you go along, because that's extremely important. The whole point of mindsets and responsibilities that you were alluding to, Srinath, was also about the approach that they have with each other and within the families. So keep that empathy going.
Fantastic. So I think that really brings us to the end of this conversation. Would you have some Q&As that you would like them to respond to? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, you could read. Mali, the question for you.
As an angel investor and mentor, what governance frameworks of family charters do you believe help maintain professionalism without, what is that?
Without stifling entrepreneurial spirit within the family.
I'm a little confused with the question. Okay. Angel investor is not something which I do within the company. What is the question, Sheena?
The question, he says, I recognize there are several parts.
In the companies I invest into?
Yeah. Or to just make sure that within the family, entrepreneurial spirit is with someone.
No, as an angel, okay. As an investor, how do I use those values within my business? Yeah. See, obviously, every decision is a considered and discussed decision we take. So, we have partners outside our family also. So, it's deliberated. And risk assessment is done mutually, if that's the question. What is the question actually?
No, I think there's a thin divide between professionalism and entrepreneurial spirit. Not killing the entrepreneurial spirit and yet being professional.
By professional, if it means compliance, regulations, all that has to be there. But if it's professionalism of necessarily being structured, I would unleash entrepreneurial energy at this stage of our family business. I am more interested in the energy than in really structured approach. But compliance, regulations, etc., those are part of process which we need to do. Because I believe I invest in outside my family business a lot, where I see fire in the belly, if that's the question. Yeah, that's the question.
Any other question? Pratima, is there another question? So Arun, with Sargam's successful global footprint through Kaproban in Singapore, how do you balance international professional management with family involvement to ensure sustainable growth?
So here, the fact that your next generation could themselves be, having qualified themselves overseas and so on, it really brings a global perspective. I think that they also enjoy if you're giving them the opportunity to grow the business globally, rather than just do what you continue to do. You need to think a little bit bigger and, excite them. I think that's the right word. If you excite the next generation and they believe that there is a great opportunity in doing things in the family business, that's what they will be looking for.
Is that it? Pratima? Is that it? Oh, there are more? Vijay? How do you ensure that innovation, especially in product design, digital marketing, customer engagement, remains at the heart of a family's brand long-term continuity? And that can be the last question. So,
again, I think be open-minded. Get the right professionals for the job. There's always a given way or a done way of doing things, which is becoming very, very tricky within family businesses, right? We've always done it like this. We've always, had this kind of an approach. The thing is to break free from those shackles and take those risks. And that's where, even the seniors have to play a role in allowing youngsters to unleash that entrepreneurial spirit, take those risks. Otherwise, we won't be alive with the times. We can't have the 1960s ads running on televisions anymore, right? There's a completely new paradigm of doing things. So that's probably what we'll have to do.
So You can. Go ahead. So go ahead. 105. Yeah. Just one thing. I just want to correct you, Vijay. The Shiva's Regal ad, which is now over 70 years, says if you make a good product, you don't have to make a fuss. So 1960s ad, that's still good. Okay, go ahead. Vijay, for you, Vijay. Keep this.
New age customers. Okay, I think this is pretty much, what I mentioned. So there's always this challenge between the old and the new to be able to do things differently. And innovation is not just only in product. Innovation is also in marketing channels. Innovation is in the way in which you reach out to customers. Innovation is in the way in which you provide service delivery. Innovation is in how you communicate and so on. And much of that knowledge comes when the next gen itself within the family business is allowed to experiment. So always keep aside a small portion of your budgets. And that's what we would do. We'd keep aside a small portion of our budgets, can be 15% or 20%, which says, go out and just make mistakes with that 15 or 20%. Don't worry about it. If you want to choose to be able to do something that's absolutely crazy, whether it's in the digital space, whether it's, in terms of a new kind of a branding policy or an idea, make it with that money and then let's learn from it and keep growing. So knowing what, not to do over time is very, very useful. And these kind of experiments teach us what works and what doesn't work.
Mali, in a multi-business family setup like TSM, how do you ensure that shared family values and culture remain consistent as the business diversifies across industries and generations? Yeah.
See, I think I've said it differently before. As far as the external environment, interfacing with the external environment, whether it's regulations, compliance, customer, etc., the values are the same. Nothing changes actually. How to treat customers transparently, make sure there's a win-win for everybody. That doesn't change independent of the sector you are on. Make sure that it's most important that not only are the family members, but they should get internalized among your employees also. Because they are the person at the front end interfacing with the customers. So, of course, different businesses require different approaches. But fundamentally, you remain the same and you adapt. For example, the real estate business, the challenges are very different, for example. So, I think if the core, we have tried very hard, Srinath, to make sure that we are fair. Fair with all our stakeholders, basically. I think that message goes across and people in the business community or market respect us for that, and we have internalized it across generations. So I think it's almost by instinct now. I'm not saying this out of pride, but we are more afraid of going wrong, doing wrong things than anything else. More fear. Okay, thank you.
So Arun, one last question, and then we can. Arun, can you go back to the Arun question, please? There was one question for Mr. Arun. Arun. Given your company's long-standing heritage, Arun.
Fostering a culture, that's something that, I have felt very strongly about, where you treat your children as, openly and equally, in the sense that, the points that I was making are some things that I try to follow. This is not something that happened in our generation. When I was growing up and joining the business, father's instructions were paramount, not questioned. You can't ask them anything. But that isn't what your children expect. They expect you to be more open. They expect you to be transparent. And so that is a culture that you need to have. They can criticize you and you need to be able to take it. There's no question of my criticizing my father, not even opening my mouth. So generations have changed. We need to understand that the younger people are going to ask more questions and you need to answer them satisfactorily. You need to do that to be able to attract them into the business and give them the choice of whether they want to continue with you or want to do something on their own. Because as Sam was saying, your love for them is different from, your business and getting them into the business and getting them to grow. They are two different things which you need to keep apart.
So guys, I think it's interesting because several of you sitting here are youngsters. I hope your parents are listening to this, because a lot of what being shared here is about messages to your parents and people who are actually going to help you into the next generation. But what I think is interesting from three of you, and I reckon we've come to the end, is that consistently what you really demonstrate and talked about is passion enthusiasm. Some ways you're ikigai. I mean, if each of you here can discover your mojo, I think you will turn out to be phenomenal businessmen. So God bless you guys and have a great future. Thank you. I'm not done. The honors are yet to be done. Go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Srinath, and our distinguished panelists for sharing your experiences and actionable insights on generational leadership. I call upon Dr. Titi Srinath to please hand over a token of our appreciation to the distinguished panel members and panel members for their immensely valuable and rich contribution.
Remember, you're creating history with what we're doing with the family. Rightfully, they have.
On behalf of the MMA, Group Captain Vijay Kumar will hand over a token of their appreciation also to the distinguished panel members.
Yes. Srinath. Yeah. Put that, Srinath. Yeah. Now you. I'm finding it very odd putting someone's here. Just give you one receiving it. Closer. Thank you, Malik. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
To conclude today's deliberations, I welcome Mr. Yash Merchant, who is the Director of Brand Marketing Great Lakes, to deliver the closing remarks.
Have you on campus? I don't know. How we missed not having you for a long time.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's been a very power-packed day for us so far. Between the insights, anecdotes, and a few friendly disagreements, I think we've covered everything from governance to generational gaps and perhaps even some family secrets along the way. On behalf of Great Lakes, I want to thank each of you for joining us here as well as online and making this conclave such a lively and thought-provoking one. Today's theme, creating entrepreneurial families, the role of family offices, couldn't be more relevant. We've heard how family offices are not just about managing wealth, but about managing wisdom across generations. At Great Lakes, we know that family businesses are economic engines. Without a doubt, we also believe that they're emotional ecosystems. They employ, nurture, and tell stories that go far beyond a simple balance sheet. Our goal with events like this is to build more than just a platform. We're building a community, a space where family business owners, entrepreneurs, and educators can exchange ideas, find mentors, and yes, sometimes a few business partners too. Look out for an email at the end of the day on how you can join us and be part of this community as well as nurture it. We want to create a support system where the next generation of business leaders can learn how to innovate without losing tradition, how to grow without letting go of the family's DNA, and how to dream beyond the usual dad started it, I'm continuing it business. That's also what inspired our program in family business and entrepreneurship at Great Lakes. It's designed for the next generation, those who want to take their family businesses to the next level or even start something of their own. It's not your typical B-school program filled with theory, case studies, and PowerPoints. It's deeply experiential. We have labs, weekly mentorship, live projects, and a strong focus on real-world application. In short, it's about learning how to lead, not just inherit. If any of you are curious or have a son, daughter, or family member who's destined to take the reins, our program counselors Aishwarya and Suveda are stationed near the registration desk. Please do stop by and have a chat with them. As we close, I want to thank our wonderful speakers and all of you in the audience once again for spending your Thursday morning with us. We hope you're walking away with fresh ideas, new connections, and maybe even some dinner table conversations tonight. Thank you so much.
This has been a veritable food for thought type of session. There is also food for the stomach. It's very sumptuously laid out by Group Captain and his team. We've come to the close of the Family Business Conclave today, and we invite all of you to join us for lunch. But please, at this point, please stand up for the national anthem.
जन गण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगल दायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे